Hi, welcome back to another episode of Chris Dyer's Creative Friends, the super awesome podcast show where me, your artist friend Chris Dyer, talks to us amazing creative friends. Today, I'm in the middle of nowhere, California, and I'm coming to visit my good old friend Damon Soule, who's a really great painter, drawer, musician, just a very unique human being who I'm gonna have a great conversation with. So I hope you will enjoy. Blessings!
While the world is burning, got to make amends. Walk on the sunny side with a positive lens. Talks about passion between the women and the men. Chris Dyer and his creative friends. Darling, ooh, ooh.
Crazy. I taught myself electronics and coding over the pandemic.
Wow.
I was like, why?
Yeah, why?
I don't know. I just thought it was interesting. I wanted to make music instruments. And so I did. I made a bunch of weird music instruments.
That's
and
cool.
I was like, all right, well, that was fun. Next.
I'm happy that you don't limit yourself.
Yeah, I always think at some point I'm like, oh, I'll get so old that I won't want to learn new things.
Mm-hmm.
It's worse. The older I get, it's like the more I want to
Well,
engage with the world.
I'm so old. I'm over learning new things. I'm trying to be just satisfied.
I've met so many people like that, though, that I thought that that's what would happen to me. I can't believe I got to this age and I'm still like a kid. You know, that's being an artist. That's what it is. You're staying young in your mind, you know. And then I think it makes your body younger, like by virtue of how you think, you know. So people, you know, but I see the old souls in people too, where I'm like, why are you here again? You should have been off this fucking samsara bullshit.
Well, I'm happy that you're both not young but young and acting as if the life is brand new.
Yeah.
And there's so much things to like capture and grow and learn and fucking just take a good bite out of reality. That's what I hear. So thank you for having me over, man. Woo! Yo! So where the fuck are we? Like, this is not Grass Valley anymore, right?
It is. It's the unincorporated part of Grass Valley. So we're on the fringes of that county, Nevada County, Northern California.
We had to like drive pretty deep in order to get here.
Yep.
Was that a purposeful decision to get out of inhabited areas, or how did it work out?
I mean, we were living just a couple miles from here for 7 years. And so when we decided that we wanted to try to do a little more, you know, a little more self-sustaining lifestyle, we just put the word out, hey, we want to buy some property, and we didn't have the credit and the things, and you can't get a loan to buy raw land.
You can't?
No. You have to, there's a lot of random things you got to do. But anyways, this property came up because some people used to farm things here, and then it fell through for them, and they just wanted to get rid of the property. And so we took over no money down, took over the property, the mortgage on it. And so it just happens to be in the community that we were already engaged with, and it was like a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Okay, here's our opportunity to, you know, hit the ground running on a property near where we already live. And so we're not trying to, at least that part is taken care of. The community part is, we're already involved.
Yeah.
The rest is like the infrastructure of what it takes to be a human living in the woods, which is a lot.
Totally.
Way more than I thought.
Oh. Before I get into like the specifics of this project you're creating here, Tell me about this community that you were already part of. You said you were here for 7 years.
Yeah.
Where were you living before, and what brought you to this Grass Valley area?
Well, let me give you because I don't know how many people know my background thing. I'll give you the super abbreviated, and you can edit it any way you want.
No, tell me your story, man.
I grew up in New Orleans, Louisiana.
That sounds fun.
That was interesting.
Yeah.
Very crazy place. Very, very different than probably anywhere in the United States. It's its own world. I grew up there. When I was a teenager, I got into some trouble. And my mom was going to college in Colorado, so I had to go there. And so when I was in ninth grade, I moved to Colorado Springs, which is just south of Denver. And I lived there for a few years, skateboarder, punk rock, hip hop, graffiti kid, and did all that stuff. And then I had some friends that were living in San Francisco, and they came back to visit. And I was at that point, I was 19 years old, and I was like, I got to do something different with my life. I don't think I want to stay in this town. And they were like, okay, jump in the car, we're going to San Francisco. And I was like, all right. And I basically just left an apartment filled with my stuff, and I brought a sleeping bag, a box of art supplies.
You never went back?
I never went back.
Poor people who had to clean after you.
I know. Fuck them. Landlords, boo-hoo. They got a lot of good stuff. Yeah. They got thousands of dollars worth of vinyl. So I had everything.
Oh, no. Yeah. I wanted to be a roommate then.
Oh, my God. I had every Funkadelic record. I had ridiculous vinyl.
Wow, that's a big lesson in impermanence. What age is this, once again?
19. So, and I picked up my last check from the restaurant I worked at. It was $300. I had a box of art supplies, a sleeping bag, and I got in the car, and we went to San Francisco, and I thought I was going to California, where it's sunny, and it was, I think it was like June or July. It was right after my birthday. And as we're driving across the Bay Bridge, it was foggy and cold. And I was like, I didn't even have warm clothes. I was like, oh my God, what the fuck did I do? Like, this is not exactly what I thought it was going to be. But I loved it. And I lived in San Francisco for over 20 years.
Oh, what a romantic situation.
I did it. I lived with a bunch of pro skateboarders.
What brand?
Okay, so do you remember... now I'm going to start drawing blanks. You caught me off guard. Okay, hold on.
So there was Think, there was Consolidated.
Not Think. Do you remember Experience? The company Experience?
These
are smaller companies.
Okay.
But they had James Kelch. You remember James Kelch?
Not
okay,
right now.
James Kelch, Stevie Williams.
Yeah.
Henry Sanchez. I can't even remember. I'm sure I have the videos. I can show you the videos.
How good of a skater were you?
Not good at all.
How was it hanging out with all these pros?
They were crazy. Yeah. It turned me off to skateboarding. To be honest, because the lifestyle was a little rugged.
It's intense.
And it was intense.
Yeah.
My whole thing was with the skateboarding. I was like, I'm never going to be that great of a skateboarder, but I'm okay at drawing. And I thought if I could be the guy that draws the graphics, that would be awesome.
Yeah.
So
how many skateboard graphics you ended up doing in that period?
Hundreds. But one of my very first friends in San Francisco was Mike Giant.
Okay, nice.
He lived in the apartment right next to mine. And so
he was working for Think.
He worked for Think, yeah, for Deluxe. And so that was a crazy.
That's why you're in SF. So your neighbor will be Mike Giant.
Exactly. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God. Wow, really? You're that guy? I fucking have your T-shirts. Yeah. And he was such a sweetheart. And and through him, I met Sam Flores. And then Jeremy Fish. I went to school with Jeremy Fish and Bigfoot.
Where? What school?
SFAI.
Okay.
I went to SFAI for 2 years.
Wow. And that was what a generation there.
Oh, it was the mid-90s in San Francisco at SFAI
Crazy.
skateboarding. Yeah, no, I slipped right into the whole thing, and I even had a skateboarding company. I was part owner of a skateboarding company called Fit.
Okay.
And we put out videos. We had a wheel company, clothing company called Civilian. We did all that kind of stuff. That, that was such a incredible experience. Like just learning the business part of it was interesting.
I love San Francisco skateboard culture.
Yeah.
I used to work for Satori Movement and manage Creation skateboards that had a foot in there at least for some years. That van I drove in was their old tour van that they just lent me. So I spent years there, but more like mid 2000s.
Yeah,
I'm sure you were still in town, but
oh, absolutely. I mean, what happened was, I went to school doing that. While I was at SFAI, I started the skateboard company with these other guys. And I did that for a few years, and then I got super interested in the music culture there. So then I started doing a lot of flyers for like drum and bass parties and and hip hop parties, like Future Primitive. Remember the turntablist stuff? I did all that shit.
So cool.
Yeah, it was. I mean, it's the perfect time when you're in your early 20s to get involved in these subcultures and just you're setting the tone for like people outside of your little bubble, but you're actually creating this culture that reverberates out into the world and influences so many people. And that to me was like incredible. Like, how did I get here? And I realized early on, because I said, I want to be a skateboard graphic guy, right? And then it happened within a year, just by being a friendly, outgoing, personable person who has some mild talents. And I was like, okay, so all I have to do is set a goal and then make that happen. And then I would just knock these fucking goals down. Boom, 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 boom. It was a great time in my life. It was amazing. I
wish I would have lived that, man. Like, I always came for like a month in summer, and then I went back to Montreal, and I was always like, oh, it's gonna be so great living in San Francisco. But it's so much cheaper to live in Montreal, and and I like my friends, and I'm Canadian. I got free healthcare. I'm just gonna stay here. And now I live in the States, and I was like, it's too late to move to San Francisco.
Yeah, no, I wouldn't live there now. You couldn't pay me to live there now. There's none of that type of activity will happen there again, but it's not happening there now.
You think it will come back?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, everything comes in cycles. But that was really interesting, just to experience that type of being right on the cutting edge of whatever is happening. Like you're privy to what the new thing is going to be, and not only are you privy to it, but you have some influence over it. And that to me was like, that is the most exciting part about making art, is like you are right in the thick of it.
You're helping create a culture.
Yeah, exactly. And so, yeah, I really enjoyed that. And then, San Francisco had its first sort of peak around 2000. We had the whole Y2K scare and all that. And the internet happened, right? Because while all this is happening, there was no internet. That didn't even exist yet. Not in any main.
There was Trasher Magazine, Big Brother.
Exactly. It's all magazines and people filming on cassette. Zines. And then when I was 30, I moved to New York, and I lived there for several years because I thought, that's where you become an artist.
Yeah, which borough?
I lived in Manhattan. On Avenue, but do you know where Tompkins Square Park is?
I'm terrible with New York.
It's like 10th and between A and B.
Okay.
Yeah, I lived right in the
I imagine
thick
it's
of
close to where Sebastian lives.
Yeah, he's a little more uptown. But, New York wasn't what I thought it was going to be. It was like living in a closet, long traveling to the studio, and everybody just... is, you know, there's a lot of substance abuse. There's a lot, the nightlife is very like the stimulant sort of thing. And
where would you party? Would you party yourself or social
I mean,
activities?
you know, I would go to the bars like everybody, and just sort of hang out and do that stuff. You know, I wasn't a good boy. I was a bad boy. You know, when you're in your early 30s, that's like normal.
You were a criminal.
No. I mean, did I break some laws? Absolutely. I'm sure I did. Public urination? I think I might have got a couple tickets.
Yeah.
I don't know. But you know, it was what it was, and that was interesting. But at that point, I couldn't figure out what to do next because I realized the art world, there was a ceiling for people who weren't in, you know, there's a lot of nepotism. And I was like, and I was making art that didn't really fit into any, you know, you had the whole lowbrow art movement, and I guess I was in that kind of scenario. And I went from being like a big fish in San Francisco to being nobody in New York. But the weird part, I remember this specifically. I shared a studio in the East Village with like 10 other artists, right? And none of these people ever went to the studio. I was there every day making art, and none of these people ever made any art. It was like a gym membership, you know?
Why did they even be part of that?
Why do people join a gym and never go to the gym?
That's a good question.
It makes them feel better. In their mind, they go, oh, well, I'm paying a monthly thing, so therefore I'm an artist.
Yeah.
And I was like, whoa. So there's all these people making art who aren't really good at making art. They're just in this club. And then there's all these other people that are just, they really want to make art, but they just don't have the time because it's a lot of work, you know? And then I was like, New York is not doing it for me. And then I moved to Portland, and that was even worse. And then I moved back to New York, and it still didn't work. And then I went back to San Francisco. But the big turning point for me was Burning Man. That was like a huge...
Which year?
2010.
Okay.
Which is a long time, because I lived in San Francisco when it started. And people would be like, dude, you got to go to Burning Man. You got to go to Burning Man. And I'd be like, I am Burning Man. I don't need to go to Burning Man. I'm a full-time artist. Why the hell would I go out to the desert to do that? And I just kept saying, no, 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 no. And then eventually, you know, Mars and Nomi and Oliver and David, they were like, okay, we're going to do a collaborative painting at Burning Man. And you're going to come, and it's going to be... And I was like, all right, you know, say yes. And I went to Burning Man for the first time, and I was like, oh, shit. I can't believe I ignored this for so long. It changed a lot of... just the way even I looked at art, you know.
Why? What's so special about Burning Man and being in the desert? Why doing art there is more special than doing art in SF?
Well, for one, you're making art for people who are in an open... they're in a completely different state of mind. You're taking them out of a place. You're taking them out of the matrix, the default world, you know, and then you're presenting them with these ideas in this context that is so like different.
Surreal.
Yeah. It's you can't beat that. I mean, I realized immediately. I was like, oh my gosh, I've done, you know, art shows for 15 years at that point. And more people are seeing my art in my little camp in that 1 week than have ever seen my artwork in my entire life.
Plus, they appreciate it more. Probably.
Exactly. They're in the right. I mean, I can't even really, to be honest, I can't even really take gallery shows seriously because it's because it's so static and it's just not.
Maybe because the goal is to make a sale.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, yeah, there's a whole, yeah. exactly. There's a the goal is different, you know.
While Burning Man, you're just doing it for the sake
You're
of
just doing it.
creation and spiritual connection with other souls that also want to remove themselves from their normal life, even for just 1 week.
Exactly. Yeah.
So
And
this-
you have just such a bigger impact. Like going back to the beginning of the story, it's all about being reverberating your ideas as much as you can, right? How much impact can you have on the world as an individual in a place? Like how do you do that with the maximum effect with the minimum energy, right? Like the reverse of entropy. Burning Man is the reverse of entropy. You're reversing entropy. Like everybody's shit is getting organized.
What's entropy?
Entropy is the, gradual dissolution of energy. So over time, as heat moves back and forth, it becomes dispersed over time, right? So in
Evaporation or
well,
just about energy. So you said Burning Man is the opposite of that.
I think so.
So it's kind of like
It's organization. Yeah, it's organization.
like coagulation or
Yeah. So like in modern physics, the idea is that over time, as the universe expands, energy becomes dispersed. Like it moves farther and farther apart. And according to modern physics, eventually you end up with what's called heat death, where everything is homeostatic and there's no movement and there's no nothing. I don't believe that, by the way. Or
I'm not very good at sciences.
you don't have to be.
I saw a video
That's
recently.
good because science is mostly full of shit.
It's theory.
Yeah, it's all theory.
I saw this video on Netflix recently that if you put an apple in a box, it eventually decays. And then after like thousands of years, so much energy has accumulated that if you were to open the box, it's like an atomic bomb or something like that, right?
That's wild.
Another apple, like it would go through all the iterations of like what it could possibly be, and it would eventually become an apple
again.
Because it's run through all of those.
That's actually what made Nietzsche go crazy.
Huh.
That was actually that's one version of the many universes idea is that if the universe is infinite, right, with a finite number of things as in particles, whatever. By the way, I don't believe in particles either. It's all vibration. There is no particle. That's nonsense.
I hope the World Health Organization agrees with your comments. If not,
I doubt it.
They're going to pull this video.
No, I definitely don't think they do because they're a bunch of materialists. And I am not a materialist.
We still love you, World Health. Please don't bring down this video like you did Max Egan's or Sake's video. These are just opinions. Two dorky artists
It's all
talking.
opinions. Yeah, I mean, and that's the whole thing, right? Everything is an opinion. You can't even prove that. We can't even prove that we're here right now. Like if you wanted to try to prove it, not possible. We just have to take.
I can perceive it,
Yeah,
but perhaps I'm just in your dream.
exactly. Maybe I'm dreaming you, you're dreaming me. We can't,
Yeah.
I'm not a solipsist, but that's a possibility. And so I'll take that.
Yeah.
But
But
yeah,
back to Burning Man.
back to Burning Man. So the funny thing about when I went to art school is that, everyone's like, oh, you draw good, you should do painting and do things or whatever. But then when I got to art school, I wanted to do installation art. That's what I was most interested in, is environmental, like, creating an environment, And so Burning Man kind of introduced me into this kind of festival culture where it was like, oh, wow, you mean you could just make fucking installations and that's the art? And so I got really into that. That's kind of what I ended up doing less painting, and all my art shows, I would say 3/4 of the time I was working on the installation that I couldn't sell. You know, I would like quickly do the flat work real fast, like, you know, and then it was all about the installation stuff. And I don't know, I was very, you know, I kind of just got sucked into that idea real quick, because it's so amazing, right? I mean, you do festivals, you paint at festivals. More people see you painting one mural at a festival than if you did solo shows every month for a year. It's uncomparable, right? You do a festival with 50,000 people, at least 20,000 people are going to stop by and look at your art. And you're going to talk to, like, how many people do you talk to at a festival?
Hundreds a day for sure.
Exactly. How many people do you talk to at an art show?
If it's my art show, people come to talk to me.
Yeah.
So it's like, people come to talk to me all the time.
Yeah.
But
Is it comparable?
If I was on the street and people didn't know me, they'd walk by, look, and move on. Perhaps they're less interested.
Right.
Yeah.
It's a great play. You know, you create the hippie trap. They come in, you fucking snap down on the fucking.
I just need need Chris that paints, and either Chris or somebody that represents me to be like, oh, let me tell you what he's doing while he let him continue painting, because the whole stopping every 2 seconds too.
Yeah, it can get a little frustrating.
But I also want to talk with them.
Absolutely.
And I feel bad when, like, after the event's like, oh, I saw you painting, but like I didn't want to disturb you, and I missed my chance of like talking to you. Like, oh, what a bummer, because I like to connect too.
Next time, come to the next one.
Yeah, I'll never paint again.
No, I love it. I mean, I definitely feel like if it's about maximum impact for minimal effort, right? Reverse entropy, a festival is where you want to be showing your artwork. That's my opinion. But
then you got the situation where art becomes like festival art and it's not respected by the Babylon galleries.
Yeah,
like, this is a bunch of hippies in the desert. Who gives a shit?
Yeah, why would I care what they think?
Right. But
they're just money laundering. Right? Those people are just money launderers. The blue chip art gallery world, a bunch of money launderers. I don't give a flying fuck what they think about art, because they don't care either.
And that's true, Damon. But like sometimes I'm like, okay, if you know everything's impermanence, I'm gonna die. Who cares what happens to Chris Dyer and people remember me or not? But there is a part of me that's like, oh, wouldn't it be great if like I can do like a show at a museum where my whole city can come and get into an installation piece that I built, and perhaps maybe a couple of my paintings end up in a museum so that my medicine can reach the people
that will
past
happen.
my life. But it doesn't
will happen.
It doesn't seem like I could get to the museum if the gallery system didn't allow me in.
Well, I'm going to tell you right now, they're not going to let you through the front door. Okay? They are not going to let you through the front door. So the only way in is through the back door. You have to kick it open. And the only way to do that is to make such an impact that they can't ignore you. That's how you do it.
What's a big impact?
A big impact is affecting tens of thousands of people.
But I do that.
Exactly. You're doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're doing it.
So it doesn't really matter if I get in a gallery. I don't even like selling my paintings. So I'm a terrible equation for a gallery. Like, if I gallery's like, okay, let's have a show. It's like,
good.
Yeah, but I want to.
That means you're doing it right. That means you're doing it right. They are not going to. I'm going to tell you right now. The more effective and the more interesting and they will ignore you. And then one day they'll go, when they think they can make money, and it's probably going to be after you die. So you might as well just fuck that part. That part doesn't mean anything, right? For me, it's about when I'm doing those things, right? If I'm doing like a live painting with my buddies, the Furtherrr guys, I can see it in the crowd, and I get people come up and they're like, oh my God, my whole world has changed. Everything is different. I can't even, what are you doing? You guys are magicians. This is insane. And that is what that means so much more to me than any blue chip nonsense bullshit.
Or
I could
selling a painting for a lot of money.
Yeah, I could give two fucks about that. I don't need that. What am I going to do with more money?
Buy more wood for your huts.
I'll go get free wood.
Uh-huh.
I can do this. What I'm doing, I could do all day long, forever, and never. When you get into the trap of like, oh, I need more things, I need, then the scarcity shit triggers, and you got to get rid of that. What's most important is how are you affecting the people around you, and how many people can you get to? The blue chip people, you're not getting to anybody. How many people go to Gauguin Gallery in New York, right? I don't think very many. I've been to the shows. Maybe the famous people go there, and these like elites go there.
Magazines.
I'm not trying to change. I'm not trying to do. They mean they're almost lost souls. Unless maybe they come to the festival and see what I'm doing. Good for them. But I'm trying to reach as many people as possible. I could, if what they were doing reached the maximum number of people, then I would do that. But they don't.
Mm-hmm.
They are not. They mean nothing to me.
So it's not about succeeding at their stupid Babylon video game. It's about getting the medicine to the people.
That's right.
And expressing and communicating to humanity.
Bingo.
Yeah, and we can't let the galleries get in the way.
No, because what they're doing is they're creating a game that makes the artist try to play their game. And I realized, I had a gallery in New York. Okay. And that guy was...
What's it called? You had a gallery?
Yeah, I had a
gallery
gallery that I showed
represented
at.
you.
Yeah, gallery represented me.
Okay.
I'm not going to say who it is because I don't want to...
Bad talk him.
Yeah, and I'm not even going to bad talk. He's a great guy. Great gallery, good heart and all that stuff. But he was playing the game of the thing. And I remember we went to do these collaborative live paintings, right? And he was like, oh, don't do that. It's not going to work. It's not going to help you. Mm-hmm. And I was like, help me what? With the game he's playing. Mm-hmm. And then I realized, well, I don't want to play that. That's not, if you're telling me going and painting with my friends and having an amazing experience and affecting a shit ton of people is a bad thing, then I don't think we're aligned energetically. I don't think we have the same goal and mission.
Our intentions are different.
Our intentions are completely different. And I appreciate where he's coming from because he wants to make a living. He wants to, go up the ladder of economic status and all this, whatever that means. And I was like, I'm not interested in that. I was in my younger years, I thought, oh, that's what you do. This is the track to be a famous artist, and I just, oh man, once you see it, you're like, oh God, who needs that?
But you still succeeded in that world. You still sell paintings for a lot of money. And
I do.
And you're represented by Brian the Chambers Project Gallery.
But he's kicking the back door open.
Okay.
He ain't front door dude.
Tell me the difference between the Chambers Project and a normal gallery. They drink more beer.
Yeah, let me take a sip before I get into that, because I don't want to speak for him, right?
This is just your opinion.
It's just my opinion.
We already interviewed
We've
him.
established that, yeah. Okay, so, oh, my chickens.
They're cheering for you.
I mean, Brian's got his own. He's not from a wealthy family or a that guy's like a hillbilly, psychedelic hillbilly. His interest in art is very like personal, and he doesn't care. I mean, granted, he wants to make money like everybody else, right? But he's not. He's also interested in preserving psychedelic art culture,
And the way that he finds correct to him.
Yeah. And his gallery is in Grass Valley, California. It's not in Soho, New York, or some part of Paris or whatever. He's following his own trail, you know.
Mhm.
And I appreciate those kind of people because that's what we need. We don't need more mainstream diluted stuff, right? That's what we need. We need people who are authentic.
So the difference you would say, because when I look at Brian, and I know what you mean, you know, and I know the art he's trying to present.
Yeah.
It's art that resonates with him, not just
Yeah,
like the
personally.
hype of the day.
Yeah.
He'll bring an artist and know he knows
Yeah.
if it resonates with him. But it's still white walls with nice lighting, nice big building. People come, they buy some paintings.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
seems like the same formula from the outside.
It absolutely is, and that's not my favorite part about it. I'm not gonna that part I'm not gonna defend. But he's also helped facilitate some of these big festival builds that we've done that didn't make any money.
Mm-hmm.
We lost money, right? Because we want to affect people,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and so it's not just about, you know, that part, you know. I mean, there's definitely that. I'm not a big white walls, square, rectangle, and then now it's like, oh, do it on a circle, do it on a fucking trapezoid, do it on a, you know, you're still creating these like weird boundaries,
Mm-hmm.
you know. I'm more of an installation artist, so I like where the art and the real world blends, you know. That if I could just do that, I would. But you know, you have to sort of play the game or whatever. I mean,
But
I make
Damon,
I'm
just
compromising myself.
you
Yeah.
just contradicted all you said.
That's Hegelianism, right?
I'm
You have
sure
to find
you're
the
having-
contradictions and put them together.
I'm sure you're having fun creating paintings.
I do.
The paintings that you do are beautiful. You must be proud of yourself.
Now you're getting personal.
What?
I'm just kidding. Let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
I'm never 100% satisfied in what I do. Are you?
I am happy with what I do, so there's satisfaction in the moment, but you always know there's the next step, and it's almost natural for humans to always look at like, oh, I want to reach out for that I haven't done.
Right.
Especially in a tour like this that I'm doing, where I hang out with all these amazing artists, and you guys do art so different from what I do, but still I can see you like really flowering in a way like, oh, I want to flower in my own way, and I'm just looking at the I feel like my art till now is still me planting seeds, even though like me making my paintings makes me really happy. You want more.
Yeah, you never
know?
satisfied.
But that's almost like the human condition, and one should just be happy with whatever stage you're at. So that's my spiritual development, that I should just try to like be satisfied where I'm at, try my best, and that's all I can hope for, you know? As long as I'm giving it my all.
So then we're on the same page.
Yeah.
I don't look at my artwork and go, oh my God, I'm so amazing. I don't think that at all. I think, it could be so much better than that. Which is such a weird way to look at the world, right? It's like,
well, this is something we got to work on.
Yeah.
Both of us. Because, you know, it's all like a comparison with you from the
100%,
future.
yeah.
Maybe you're competing with yourself,
And
but you're still competing with a version of yourself that doesn't exist yet.
Yeah.
And that's unfair, because you will never be the you of the future.
No, and
But
I don't think you'll ever be. I think what makes a good artist is not being satisfied with what you made. Otherwise, why would you keep doing it?
Well, you wouldn't like just be happy with your art and be like, okay, I'm done.
I'm done.
I'm just gonna like fucking like
Nailed
receive my
it.
praise. Well, I don't do art to receive praise. Of course, I want people to like my
I
work.
do.
Really?
Absolutely. I'm not gonna.
Why?
What do you mean, why?
Why do you need somebody else to tell you that your art?
Because I'm a social being. Because human beings are social.
Mm-hmm.
We crave validation.
It's true, but you're number one, baby.
Am I?
You,
I don't know about
I
that.
think you should be.
I don't know about that.
You're the god of your own universe.
That's true.
You're
That
the
is true.
creator
That
of
is
your
true.
existence. So
Yeah.
you're the first one who's gotta be like, I'm
in
emanating,
my-
creating my reality, and I'm really at peace and at one with
Yeah.
it. And if other mirrors in this crazy world come and reflect my own beauty, God bless them,
Yeah.
and my love for myself can be reflected in those mirrors too. But at the beginning has to start with the self-love.
I
that's-
definitely, so I have, just, the idea of any human having a state that is continuous, right? So I have moments where the self-love is all there. And then I have moments where the self-hate is there. And I have moments where the it's never like a steady, right? You're constantly moving through different emotional.
We got good days and we got bad days.
Exactly.
We got days where we feel humbled,
Mm-hmm.
and we got days where we feel great. And once again, it sucks to compare yourself to others, even if you're comparing yourself to yourself. I travel, and then all of a sudden, like, I'm at Amphion.
Yeah.
Free stories of Alex
Yeah,
Gray
yeah.
paintings.
I know, it's crazy.
And you're like,
I'll never
I-
have a museum of
No.
just me.
right, or it would never be like this level. And
I don't know if I have the ego to do that, to be honest.
For me, it's unnecessary. And then I don't want to call Alex egocentric or anything. He's, I think, doing
I
it
don't
more
think
for
you have to.
service.
Everybody has some of that, right? So it doesn't.
Yeah.
You don't need to it doesn't need to be pointed out. Everybody's sort of got an ego.
I just want to leave a buffet of medicine.
Yeah, yeah.
More than
100%.
I want people to come and be like, oh, Chris, you're so great. And then be like, okay, now I matter. It's more like, oh, I feel your energy and I'm feeding, and thank you for bringing this energy for us, because the masses are starving.
Yeah.
And they'll be starving past my life too, so it doesn't have to be a free story thing. But my point of that, my point of that is like, I get humbled. I walk around there like, oh
How
my
about
God.
this? If you ever build a 3-story Chris Dyer museum, can I help build it?
Yeah. I want it to be like for all my friends too.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
It's cool that he had the first floor for other artists.
I love that.
But yeah, it
Those
has
guys
to
are great.
has to be a community effort, and I
sure.
want to start buying art of my friends on top of buying back my paintings that I might have sold, so I can have somewhat of collection. And hell yeah, I need to fucking paint more new paintings. But first I got to build myself a studio. And anyways, I'm just in the middle of my life right now, and I'm trying my best, and I'm trying not to overwhelm myself.
Yeah.
As I could imagine, you're not trying to be overwhelmed by this situation you're building here. I mean, like, fuck, I can't make my next 20 masterpieces till the chicken coop is done.
Right. Well, I actually gave up on all that.
The chicken coop?
Well, no.
Don't give up on chicken coop.
No, I'm not giving up. And in fact, the chicken coop is more important to me.
So okay, so we're jumping all over the place.
Not good.
And but yeah, let's go with the fucking Damon face. Tell me about the chicken coop.
I don't know. I got 30 chickens, too many, and not enough at the same time. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm a midlife crisis, right? I had this wonderful early life with lots of, I had a lot of influence in different things, and that was really great. And then I just wanted to take a break from that. And that's why I haven't really painted much, and I haven't really... I'm waiting for something to say. Does that make sense? I'm waiting for the next divine spark.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it comes, maybe it doesn't, I don't know. But I'm not going to force it, because it's like, my career. I don't, it's not, it doesn't mean anything to me.
You're too authentic to just paint for the sake of painting.
Exactly. I won't do it.
Yeah.
I just won't do it. I have to be
Inspired to say
inspired.
something.
Yeah, exactly.
And right now, your inspiration or creative energy is being channeled to build your
Permaculture,
villa.
Yeah.
What do you call this? A villa?
I don't know. It's like we're trying to do permaculture, which is crazy and hard, and just trying to be a little more self-sufficient, trying to be a little more in tune with the cycles of the world, and still be creative, within that those variables. And that's more important to me than making a painting that I can sell. You know?
And you don't necessarily need a lot of money in order to afford this.
Right. I mean, you can coast for a long time.
Yeah.
Do I need money? Yes. But it's not,
You're not desperate.
I'm not desperate. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's sort of the main thing. It's like, I do want to make more art, but then, I'm sure you've had this experience too, where you're like, oh, take more materials and make more products. I don't know. For me, one of the things that I learned about these live painting things was that the process is the real art.
Mm-hmm.
Like the process is the art.
The dance.
Yeah, the thing afterwards left over.
It's the evidence.
It's
of the
the
dance.
evidence of the art.
Uh-huh.
That's what you hang on the wall.
Uh-huh.
And so once you kind of get into that, you're like, oh, okay. It's how you maneuver through this world, It's tough because we're living in a very commodified world, right? Where everything's a product and
Yeah, like I don't know like why art has to be sold. Like I make art because I need to express myself. I got something to say. I understand that selling it will help me pay my bills so I can do more.
So you can make more art.
So it makes sense. But so many times I make paintings like, I didn't make this thing so for some stranger to come and buy it and put it in his house, and I don't know where my energy's sitting now.
Yeah,
like
I hope it's in a good place and
right. But I made this because I wanted to I wanted to talk with myself.
Yeah.
And perhaps I'm too attached. Perhaps my level of impermanence is not high enough, but I want to keep my art, and then that's why I paint murals and I teach classes and I have products so I can pay everything and still be able to afford to keep my fine art without going broke.
And that's kind of I've tried to figure that out, like those different angles. Like how do you do that? How do you even the idea of like the masterpiece, making that masterpiece. Mm-hmm. I'm not that guy. I'm too much of a generalist to even make a masterpiece. I don't even know what that would look like,
So you don't care to make a masterpiece? Or is that just not something that comes natural from you?
I think I'm too, my attention span is too, I can't focus long enough to do a masterpiece, whatever.
But say this painting that's behind us, this probably took like a minute so far, and this is just the base, right? Mm-hmm. And you must have enough concentration to do this, to think, to mix the colors, to know how to swoosh it, to tighten it up, and then you'll put in like hundreds of thousands of hours to then make something that perhaps you don't want to call a masterpiece, but somebody will.
Right.
Like,
yeah, maybe.
Like, who the fuck says what's a masterpiece and what's not?
That's a great question.
And
who
if you,
who is that guy?
Like, is it the gallery?
We gotta call that guy.
And if you're like, no, none of it's a masterpiece, it's like, well, I'm sorry, I still really like. I think.
Yeah.
I guess perhaps the definition of a masterpiece is like your best piece yet. And that changes all the time because then you'll do the next piece that's the master one, the bigger one, and then the other one gets demoted. Yeah. But hey, Paulina, could you grab us some more beers? Can we drink a couple more?
Yeah. Should I grab it? I got to pee too. Can we pause?
Sure. Pause.
Yeah, just keep it rolling.
I'm just gonna leave everything rolling.
Yeah. It's a pretty good conversation, right?
Oh yeah, it's great.
Conversation. This is great.
Yeah.
You just pull it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You have to go pee?
No, I'm good for now.
Okay, great. Fantastic. And actually, if you have a beer to spare,
oh yeah, for sure.
Beer.
Oh.
They're kind of room. They're room temp. They're room.
That's
I got them in the cold.
That's totally fine. I love it. This tea's been great too.
All right, so we're good to go?
Good to go.
Okay. So let me go a little bit like backtrack to some of my original questions because I was just started with like
I'm bad at like
I love it.
I'm a very
I'm taking a ride on the Damon train.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Because I'm so organized with my questions, and it's like I got my steps.
Yeah.
Because I like to guide it in a way that makes
Sure.
sense. But if the guest wants to go different directions, I just gotta be smart enough to like go along with it.
Yeah.
And hopefully,
I'm one of those people
wow.
that talks at people too, so feel free to just, say, hey, dude, slow down.
Oh no, you're beautiful. You're beautiful. You're perfect. You're
Right back at you.
Yeah, thank you.
Right back at you.
So you've been in Grass Valley. You were in all these different places, and you have been in Grass Valley for 7 years before this year, and you've been a year here in this piece of land.
2 years now.
2 years now?
Yeah.
Okay. What brought you to Grass Valley area? Brian and his community?
Yeah, well, Brian lived up here, but there was a couple other people I knew who lived up here. There's a guy who I used to do graffiti with in San Francisco, roommate.
Who's that?
His name is... what name should I give? The real name or the...
Give the graffiti name. That
Aqua.
Aqua, okay.
And we were in the same crew together. And he grew up on the Ridge.
What was the crew?
A-Team crew.
Okay.
I got a weird story about that too, but I don't want to get sidetracked.
Tell it to me. What's the A-Team crew?
Okay, so the A-Team crew is a bunch of graffiti guys. Very nice guys. A lot of the graffiti stuff was very cliquey, especially in San Francisco, And these guys they were like, oh, you're cool. Like, let's hang out. We go hang out at this coffee shop. We do drawing in the black books. We bomb the buses when the bus would come by on Haight and Masonic, And then, I was hanging out with those guys for like over a year. Really sweet dudes, And then they were like, oh, hey, we do this thing where we make burritos on Saturday and Sunday and hand them out to homeless people. And I was like, that's cool. That's dope. Like, wow, all right. That's like, I haven't heard of any other graffiti crews doing that. That's like, well,
that's
all
pretty
right,
righteous.
yeah, I like it, And so I started doing that with them, And then one of the guys who wrote ISEE, he was like, hey, man, he's like, I play, he's a saxophone player. And he's like, I play on Sundays at the John Coltrane Church. And I had heard of the John Coltrane Church. You ever heard of it? It's amazing. John Coltrane set up a church in San Francisco.
Or did not know there was a church after him.
Yeah, because he believed that music was a way to get to Christ consciousness. And through math, John Coltrane came up with like I don't know. He has a whole system, and
he's a pretty heady dude.
Dude, he was amazing, and it helped him get off heroin and all this kind of stuff. And I was like, "Oh my God, you're part of the John Coltrane Church? That is fucking, that is amazing." I wanted to go there. It's very small, and so he brought me there, and I was like, "Wow, this guy," and it clicked. They were all Christian. I had no idea. Hung out with them for years.
Oh, your graffiti crew.
My graffiti crew was a Christian graffiti crew. They never proselytized. It was all through their actions.
So what did the A-Team stand for?
I don't know.
Amen or something?
I guess. I don't know. I mean, it's kind of loose.
Are you Christian?
No, I mean, I don't even know what that would really mean. I wouldn't say.
Believer that Christ...
I believe in a Christ consciousness.
Sure.
Okay. So we'll leave it there. Yeah. I'm not I'm not a religious person. I
think that's all you need, really.
Yeah.
To believe that God is love and that we all could access that.
Exactly.
And he did.
Exactly. Yeah. And so what was interesting to me was that up until that point, I had a very negative view of a group of people who have a belief system that I didn't necessarily vibe with. And then I met these people who had a different, instead of trying to save my soul, they were doing things that I totally agree with. That there's no way I could say, oh, that's not good.
Yeah.
You know,
How dare you feed
yeah,
the
how
poor?
dare you feed homeless people and be nice to each other.
Better
and,
be vegan.
yeah, exactly. You know, it was wild because then it definitely it was a good moment for a learning moment for me, because then it helped me not judge people based on whatever their belief system is or their whatever. You know, because that was like an acceptable group to be negative about. And then I was like, oh, actually, no.
Yeah.
We shouldn't be doing that for any people at all. And that includes people whose ideas I think are abhorrent, right? I still don't hate them.
Yeah.
I can't.
Yeah.
Because it just, you know, it has to be love.
Right.
Even if I'm like, ugh.
Right.
I hate that idea.
Everybody is in their different process. We're all just on the same bus from different seats with different perspectives, looking out the window and thinking that the world is that view from that window.
And none of us are static. We're always growing, right? So just
the
because
bus is moving.
The bus is moving.
Yeah.
So just because your ideas are abhorrent today doesn't mean your ideas are going to be abhorrent tomorrow or the day after. And in fact, if I don't judge you and love you unconditionally, then maybe I can have an effect on that by not engaging in that type of negativity or whatever. But that was interesting to me because that was my graffiti experience.
So were you a grapher?
Yeah, I wrote my name on stuff. And
you don't want to say it?
Shit. I was D23.
D23?
Yeah.
What did it stand for?
D for delay or Damon, and 23 is the number of chaos, which I got from Robert Anton Wilson, and
that's why you put 23 in your things.
Yeah. Yep.
23 is the number of chaos.
Yeah.
Why is that?
It's a great question. I mean, Robert Anton Wilson and had a correspondence with oh gosh, what's the guy's name? The beat poet.
Allen Ginsberg?
Yeah, no, not Ginsberg. The older guy.
On the
Making
road?
lunch.
Oh.
Freaking.
Yeah, I can't.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
So they decided that 23. No, there's a crazy story. According to Robert Anton Wilson, in San Francisco at the time, so there was another group of people that were all about the number 5. And so those two got together, and then they came up with a symbol in San Francisco back in the 60s, and it was this 2, 3, and it's also Roman numeral 5. So that's where that came from, according to Robert Anton Wilson. So that, you know, the number 23, it's like a whole thing. You know, what's the fake religion with Bob Dobbs.
Scientology?
No, not Scientology.
Mormons?
No, it's a little more underground.
No religion is fake. They're all real.
No, those are all real religions.
Because religions are all... we have to look at the definition of religion.
These guys came up with a funny one. The Church of... why am I drawing a blank on this? My brain is there's too many things going on in it. It's right there on the tip of my tongue. It actually has a direct lineage to Burning Man, which is interesting. Everything is connected. And once you start to weave the patterns, you're like, oh my God, that person was friends with that person, and then they did this thing, and then you're like, ah. Like everything starts to make sense, and you're like, oh wow, that's crazy how, you know, everything is connected. Like there is no idea on an island. Do you know what I'm saying? Yeah. Everything has like
no one's an island.
No one's an island, and no idea is an island, and nothing is an island. And so there are always these threads that intertwine with other things. And
well, we're all expressions of the one, so holographically we're all embedded in each other.
Yeah, the Hermetic principle of things. That's the Hermetic view of the universe, which I am very sympathetic to. I don't know what's true, but Hermeticism seems pretty solid.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah, we're the dream of God.
Yeah. Like
Right.
all shards of the one. But having said that, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
So if the
Question for me?
Yeah, for you. So if the goal, right, if everything is one and the goal is to make everything one again, right?
Sure.
Are you into that idea? Like
Yeah.
transhumanism?
Oh, transhumanism.
Because that is the
Perhaps.
that is the modern version of Hermeticism.
Like it doesn't resonate with me. Like when I think of transhumanism, it doesn't feel like that's correct because it's an artificial mocking of a spiritual oneness consciousness.
But how could it?
But there is a parallel reality where that's what happened, and perhaps that's how God wants to express himself in that version.
Yeah.
And who am I to
That's
stop
kind of where I
that?
go with it. But
Yeah.
so the word artificial is a relatively new word. It's only from the early 1800s. So before that, there was no even concept of the idea of artificial, right? Because how could anything in the universe be artificial if everything's one thing? Right?
Everything exists at some level.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So the modern version of Hermeticism is actually a techno-Hermeticism. That's transhumanism. So that's where Hermeticism kind of loses me. Also, Hegel was a Hermeticist, and Hegel was the guy who inspired Marx, and Marx inspired so on and so forth. And I'm not really into forced collectivism. So, it all gets really wonky there where I'm all, what is the project of Hermeticism, I don't really understand because I like being an individual, but maybe that's just me hanging on to the ego. But why would the universe create an ego if it wasn't something that we should experience?
I think oneness, God's a tricky word, but oneness, consciousness, just wanted to experience it all. And thus it created billions of possibilities.
Yeah, broke it up into a million.
Right, into a million pieces, looking at each other, always being the same one, but...
The universe experiencing itself subjectively.
Right.
Basically.
Totally.
Yeah.
Which I think is a beautiful experience. And that's that whole thing where
I
you
like
said
it.
you don't want to judge somebody else. It's like, well, you're just judging God having that experience from the other side of the fence or from the other seat of the bus.
Totally. I completely agree. I'm super sympathetic to that idea of, but then we have other, there's other versions of a world or how the universe works, right? So Hermeticism is that God is everything and we're experiencing it subjectively. And then there's the personal God. That's another version, which what they call monotheistic religions do, right? So that's where God is outside of the universe,
A character.
and is a personal God,
Right.
And that's your Islam, your Christianity, your Judaism. So that's one version. And then there's the Gnostic version, right, where God is actually the bad guy, which is I think that one's really fascinating because in that one, God created this prison for us to live in. I'm kind of sympathetic to all of those, and on any given day, I experience it that way, where I'm all, we're all one, and then one day I'm all, God, why are you doing this? And then another day it's like, God is the devil.
Well, I think all
weird.
Options are
They're all
possible.
available, right?
Once again, I think God just wants to experience it all.
Yeah.
And there's Damon, there's Paulina, there's Chris, but there's also infinite versions of us.
Yeah.
Forever, eternity of us
All the
becoming an
versions.
artist, us being this, being that. And there's also, infinite planets with different, not humans, but beings of different levels of consciousness.
Beings,
And then there's the non-physical worlds where beings are non-physical, are more consciousness. Some are clusters of consciousnesses. and so on. I think the picture is so fucking big.
Yeah, it's bigger than you could ever wrap your little tiny mind around. Well, that's kind of my proof for God, is that if the universe is infinite, right, or even sort of infinite, whatever my small mind could imagine has to be true somewhere, right? And if I can imagine a God, a hermetic version, a personal version, or a archon version, if my mind can imagine it, then it must exist, right? How could my mind come up with something bigger than the universe?
But also,
that's my logical proof.
If you think it, to some degree, you create it, because it exists in your mind, and depending on how much energy you put into it, you tell your friend, you draw it, other people believe in it, and all the time thousands of people believe it exists, and it gathers energy and consciousness.
So what about art? Because this is something that kind of I've thought about a lot, because I find it so fascinating, right? If you make some, you smear some pigment, some like earth pigments on a canvas, right? And it creates like a picture or something, right? And the person over here is looking at that thing, and it's the photons, in quotes, bouncing off the thing into their eyeball, and then it creates a universe in there. There's like an invisible like communication happening there, right? But you're not creating any of those pigments or even the surface. All that is already created. So you're really a subcontractor, right?
Aren't we all?
That's what I'm saying. We're just
who created things from scratch? Nobody.
I don't think anybody. I think it's all just exists, right?
Yeah.
It's all been there.
Yeah.
So we're like one of the
playing
things
in the mud.
As an artist I've had a hard time with, where people are like, "Oh, you're so creative," and I'm like, I've never created anything. This shit is already. It's been here forever.
I just played with the pigments that were already there, but you don't believe in pigments. So your graffiti friend was living in Grass Valley, and here you came to play with pigments.
Yep.
And
so
Brian happened to be here, or was that
so
coincidence?
Brian moved up here, and that was cool. And then I had these other friends that lived here, and then Oliver moved up here, and then I was like, oh wow, they got there's like a whole thing happening here. I'm like, that's pretty cool. So we came up and visited a few times, and I was like, wow, this place is really beautiful. And I was ready to move out of the Tenderloin because the suffering, I can deal with suffering, but not on that scale. It just got so hard to deal with.
To see humans in some personal hell?
Yes, like constant, where it's inescapable, and there's nothing you can do. If you're in tune with that, some people can just walk by it and go code or whatever they do. I can't do that. It's like, so that's what I would think about constantly, is like, wow, these people are suffering. How do you relieve that suffering? I have no solution. Every solution I've seen them try to do is not working, and I just don't think I can be a part of that anymore. That the best thing I can do and we could do is to remove ourselves from that, so that we could have a better perspective on that kind of thing. And you could just say, oh, you're running away from it, and that would be fine too. I'm more than happy to say I'm running away from that because it's challenging.
So you couldn't live in poor countries then?
I mean, I've visited plenty of poor countries. Actually,
travel India, and
I've been through India and Nepal and all that shit. I love it. And in fact, what's funny is those people are missing something that India and Guatemala and these places have, which is they have a culture and they're colorful. They're at least trying to
and the food's good.
And the food's good.
And bountiful. No one is lacking food in Peru.
Yeah. And there's at least something happening. Like, yes, there's suffering. There's suffering everywhere. I suffer. You suffer. We all suffer.
Suffering's part of life.
Yeah, it's just part of the program. But the way it's happening in one of the most wealthy regions of the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's sort of like
The contrast.
the contrast.
Because in Peru, say like where I come from, so many people are poor that it's like, well, this neighborhood and the next one and the other 10, we're all broke and this
Yeah.
is just how it is. And sure, we would like to live like the 3
Sure.
wealthy neighborhoods, but fuck them, and you know, it's not so bad. And in India, I don't think I ever saw a wealthy neighborhood. It was just like all
No,
poverty.
they're there, but I didn't see it.
No.
I've heard that they exist, but it's crazy.
They probably hide very well because the contrast would be like too intense.
You know, my best friend at the Art Institute was Peruvian.
Okay.
His name was Eamon.
Okay.
And we would talk about it all the time, like Peru, and like he would go back there and he'd be like, it's crazy. It's so simple. The life would be so simple, and you know, we would go back and forth on like
But poverty is subjective because
it
like,
is totally
like say like my parents live in a little village called Quilmana, and it's just an agricultural valley, and if you are North American, you go there, it's like, wow, everybody's poor, live in your little houses made of adobe. You got a little motorcycle or a donkey.
Is it poor though?
Yeah, but like, yeah, what's the definition
Yeah,
of poverty? Is it like a
exactly.
comparison to like, say, like my dad's land, he's got his wall and we got houses and
it
we
looks
got...
pretty nice there.
Yeah, it's chill, but like our richness is in like...
Community.
We hang out together, we have a good
Fresh
conversation,
food.
we eat, we drink, we enjoy the sun. It's not like, look how many luxury cars my dad has, because he doesn't have that shit. He's got toy cars.
Right.
That's his richness. But then the neighbor, like if you look at it as money, my dad's always like, yeah, you can look at the neighbors and they got their adobe house. But that land they own costs more money than what we got. So technically, they're more rich than us. They just choose to live in the nature and the agriculture.
Well, that's
farmers.
kind of my whole thing is like, so, you know, I've traveled through Central and South America and India and all, you know, but the type of suffering that you see in cities in the United States is totally different.
Yeah.
Because there's no like...
compassion almost.
Well, it's hard to have it at that point because what do you do?
There's just so many.
It's so pervasive, you know?
And the systems are broken.
Well, yeah, it's a business now, right? Homelessness is a business. Like, I think San Francisco spends like $1 billion a year or something. And you're
To
like,
do what?
I don't know. That's a great question.
If it's a business, that business is sucking at it.
Well, the more, you know, it's in a free market system, right? The more money you spend, the more of what you get. So it's like, it's this weird thing where...
What, somebody's paying for there to be more homeless people?
Basically.
Why? Who?
Well, so what happens is right? So say you get $1 billion to spend on homelessness, and the people who are getting paid to fix the problem, that's their job now, right? So they really gonna fix the problem, or does the problem get worse? Because that's what's happening. The problem gets worse because now it's an industry. It's a homeless industry.
I agree with you, and it's the same with the medical
crazy.
The medical system, you know,
Same
keep people
thing.
sick so that you can sell more. But it just seems so mean. Like you see these people like fucking struggling in the streets of every city these days, and what, you're not gonna do anything? You're gonna keep the money?
Well, what's crazy is good luck trying to find like actual heroin anymore, right? Heroin is gone. Right? Because they pulled out of Afghanistan. So you can't get any natural opiates. It's all synthetic opiates. And these people are bent over. Their bones are deteriorating and they're bent over. It is so horrendous that we're right on the verge of like, you know, hopefully this whole thing collapses in on itself. I mean, San Francisco is having huge problems, you know, because they've created an industry around suffering.
There's poo everywhere.
Exactly. They've created an industry of suffering. I mean, it's the worst part of like capitalism, but it's not even capitalism because it's government
Bureaucracy.
Yeah, it's a
What a
it's
bummer!
bureaucracy.
Like what a bummer!
I know.
that
I
is
hate to
here.
take it there.
No. It's
I'm sorry.
true. Let's
I'm
talk about
sorry.
it. No,
I'm
let's
sorry.
not ignore it.
Well, that's why I left.
No,
That's why
and
I
you
left.
left a tenderloin. That's where we're at.
Yeah, I left the tenderloin because it was so disgusting, and there was nothing I could do about it.
You were stepping
personally.
in poo every 2 steps.
Exactly. We called it poo hopscotch.
Really?
Yeah, because it was like literally like boop, 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 boop. You know, and we were spending so much money. We had a $2,000 studio apartment, a $2,000 gallery space, and a $2,000 studio space.
Wow.
So $6,000 overhead for like maybe 4,000 square feet spread across the city.
Oh.
And it's like, how do you make a life with that, you know?
No, it's not a good standard of living. to
Exactly.
start with.
So we moved up here because we had a lot of friends here, and we found this big geodesic dome house that was like $2,200 a month. So it was 1/3 of our rent, and it was like double the square footage. And we just, you know, that was great. We had parties there, jam nights.
When you say we, it's you and your...
Me and Sparkles.
Who's your girlfriend?
Yeah, my partner, my
Spouse,
Significant.
wife, yeah, like...
we're not married yet, but you know, she's like the most important person in my life, you know.
Do you love her?
Of course.
Great.
I love everybody, but her the most.
Amazing.
Even more than my puppies,
Oh, wow.
which is crazy.
And your chicken? Your chicken?
More than my
love-
chickens.
You don't even love your chickens that
Yeah.
much, but you're working at it.
Yeah.
So Sparkles and you moved to
We
this
moved up
amazing geodesic dome in Grass Valley,
Yep.
close to Brian's gallery and this community. Tell me about the community you got here.
Well, we got lots of interesting people, lots of artists, lots of musicians, lots of builders, permaculture people. This whole area has like a history of like independent, go-getter, amazing people. I mean, we have a neighbor, this woman, Lucy, she's probably 110 pounds, and she built her whole house out of straw bale. I can't even believe it. She's such a beast.
Straw?
Straw and...
Is she one of the free little pigs?
I know, right? No, it's an amazing house. Straw bale houses are like the future, honestly.
I don't really know much about it.
Yeah, they're
Paulina seems to know.
fire resistant.
Straw is fire resistant.
Yeah, because what you do is you have these big straw bale. You build a timber frame, and then you put straw bales as the walls instead of, you know, plywood sheathing and 2x4 framing, and you use like mud and like adobe
Okay.
on the outside and the inside, and your walls are like this thick.
Uh-huh.
They're like 2.5 feet thick.
Uh-huh.
So that's all. You don't need insulation either. No like.
That's what the Polish ambassador had, right? Okay, so Polish ambassador
Yeah.
built his houses
So
that way.
she built a huge. I mean, this house is fucking gorgeous. She's
Mm.
right up the road. Another, you know, basically this area is filled with people like that, and that's what we wanted to be around. We
Conscious
wanted,
community,
yeah.
very creative.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about the Chambers project community specifically. You got Johnny Transforma, you got the Furtherrr dudes, different artists that live here.
Yep.
They're all like good friends of yours.
Yeah. I mean, they're all great people, you know. But the gallery is only what, a year and a half old, so it's not even that old. I mean, he's been doing the art stuff for a long time, but it was pop-up style stuff. So he finally decided to, like, I think he's tried a couple times. He almost opened a gallery in Denver and it fell through. And he's a very idea-oriented person, so he doesn't do the due diligence all the time. And it's sort of like, oh, I moved too quick, and you know, so he gambles on things. But this is really great because it is very community oriented. You know, he shows local artists and, you know, artists who are gone, or people who are right on their tail end of the, you know, and I think it's really cool to. It's not like a regular gallery, you know. It's a little different. It's like a clubhouse. We hang out there. We talk. We connect. We do all the things that that a community needs to do. Normally a gallery is like you walk in, you look at the art, and then you leave. But there it's more of a like, oh, let's hang out and fucking figure out the next move. Like, what's the big move, And
then after today, we're going to go over to Brian's house for barbecue.
Yeah.
With those people.
Yeah.
So it's all friends. Like, I'm not part of the gallery per se. My art's not in there, but I still feel like I'm part of. I'm not part of your crew. I'm like, I'm outsider still, but I feel
you're part of my crew, dog.
Oh, thanks, man. But I feel included in your guys' super cool movement, which seems right now like the biggest psychedelic gallery or community out there.
Yeah, well, we don't have a lot for the psychedelic community, right? It's pretty sparse in terms of, I mean, there's some people, there's Janet Tribe 13, there's the Greys, obviously, but it's pretty spread out, and there's
different galleries in Denver.
There's a LA. That's happened a couple times.
Temple of Visions was happening in LA at some point. Now,
what's the guy in Miami? Moksha. Yeah. So there, we're out there, but
it's small bubbles.
Yeah, little tiny bubbles. Yeah.
And it's growing. It's growing in popularity. What do you think about the psychedelic movement in general? Do you think it's got a hope in a world that's all of a sudden embracing psychedelics? Or do you think that psychedelic embrace will be a fad, or once people start actually doing them and realize that they're all spiritual beings, that these paintings that reflect spiritual connection will be the most important art of them all, past art movements of the modern time?
I think what happens when you really get psychedelic is you realize that the objects don't matter as much as the experience.
Right. Anything could be psychedelic.
So it's really hard to build a object-oriented, business around the ephemeral. When you realize, like, oh, it's all fucking temporary, dog.
But the psychedelic visionary world does have a certain vibe.
Sure.
Seems to be like...
It's colorful, it's pattern-oriented.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so things that kind of like mimic... Mm-hmm. Like, I've never painted anything I've seen on the visionary state. I don't see my art on my trips.
Me neither.
But something about the vibe that I carry transfers into my life.
I think it's an attitude more than it is like a thing. Like, obviously there's a lot of artists who sort of hone in on the idea of like, I'm gonna try to recreate the things I see. Mm-hmm. I did that when I was a teenager. First couple times I took acid, I was like, oh my god, like the patterns, I tried to like really nail that down. And I was like, oh, that's impossible. Is this impossible?
Because it moves.
It's moving,
and it's never. It's like it's never the same, and then I forget it on top of it.
Yeah. No, it's crazy. I still have the very first drawing that I did on acid right after, where I was trying to like nail that down, and I was like, oh, this is some.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Might as well just paint ants on stilts.
Yeah, just what I'm more interested in is painting things or drawing things that look really cool, whether or not you're on psychedelics or not on psychedelics. But there is sort of a vibe.
I think being psychedelic, something I realized that on psychedelics is that I'm a psychedelic person.
Yeah,
I'm a trippy interdimensional being in human form, and it expresses through the things that I do, including art. And when people tell me like, oh, I saw your characters or your paintings on my trip, I was like, I don't know how, because I don't even see that.
I didn't see those.
Right, but that's cool that what I transferred has a resonance that goes with your journey.
Yeah, totally.
I don't understand it.
Yeah.
Or perhaps they saw my art somewhere and then they went in and then the brain used it as a skin.
Absolutely.
To dress
I've had that experience too, where I had an experience where I saw like a Buddha, like a Thai style Buddha on the thing, and I was all, that's fucking weird. Like, cause I grew
up.
Thai? Yeah, I was like, I'm not even
specific.
Yeah, super specific. Like, and so obviously my brain was superimposing some sort of imagery onto the experience, and I was like, huh. Or maybe there is some I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
At least with Aya, and Aya is like my main mistress, I feel she goes into my brain and grabs pieces of things that I love to put skin over invisible energies or to communicate in some way. So like sometimes she'll go deep into Nintendo land.
Oh, nice.
And she'll grab Donkey Kong and a ball of fire from Mario Bros.
For sure.
And cartridges and make mandalas.
Some like 80s fucking trippy.
A very specific, pixelated, colorful Mega Man shit.
Yeah.
And then I'm trying to be like, what does this mean?
Yeah.
And then she's like, life's a video game. And then I'm like, oh, okay,
right, I get it.
for 2 hours. So perhaps that's what's happening. Like, it's nothing specific. And then other times she's telling me, like, even if you painted a Bob Ross landscape, that's still psychedelic if you are soul.
The only difference between something psychedelic and not psychedelic is that there's the mundane, right? Mm-hmm. The mundane is not psychedelic because we're experiencing it all the time. The reason something is psychedelic is because you're shifting your perception, right, to the whatever.
But the mundane could.
The mundane is psychedelic. Life is psychedelic.
Right.
If you really get into it, if you breathe hard for 10 minutes, you know, and you'll be like, oh my God, this shit is so weird. All you have to do is just get out of the mundane. The mundane is just
the perspective that we're just a bunch of smart animals.
Well, and we're it's the default, right? Mm-hmm. The mundane is the default. All you have to do is shift the default slightly, and then you're suddenly in psychedelic land. Mm-hmm. Psychedelic is nothing more than the mundane, except you're not tripping all the time, right? If you were eating, mushrooms every day, all day, then that reality would be the mundane. But this is, we're living in, the mundane we're living in is only there because that's the default state of our mind, right? Like Robert Anton Wilson said that the reason why he likes psychedelics is because it's knowledge squared, right? So it's the ability to, so you're in the mundane and that's all you have. But then when you go into this, you shift into this other sort of reality, you're able to experience this new perception, but you can also reflect on the mundane, and now you've squared your understanding of reality. You'll never get the whole picture. The whole picture is infinite. So you can't get there, but you can sort of change tune the radio to all these different channels. I mean, that's what I think is, I'm one of those people who is like, I like the weird experiences, right? Like I've had, salvia, for instance. I hate it, but it's so interesting. Mm-hmm. It's dark as fuck. It's like this crazy place, Mm-hmm. Or one time I thought I was taking LSD and it was, someone gave me N-bone. You ever heard of that?
No.
N-B-O-M-E.
M-bone?
Yeah, N-B-O-M-E. It's like a Chinese research chemical.
Okay.
Ooh. I'll never do it again. But it was a whole nother piece of the puzzle.
Right.
Of the
possibilities of reality.
Yeah, the possibility, and now it's there. I've experienced it. I never want to go back there.
Do you want to
I never want to go visit that place again.
Do you want to experience everything?
No. Well, I will, right? Aren't we all part of the one thing that will experience all the things forever and ever?
In a holographic
it's
way
coming.
Of speaking, but say, would you want to do Bufo or Iboga?
Sure. Why not?
Okay.
Yeah. I mean,
do you ever fear getting cracked? Do you ever feel like it could split your consciousness?
I've been cracked so many times, man.
But what to a point of no return, and then you're not functional in the physical realm?
How do I know that I'm there now? How do I know I'm in the functional?
Well, you're building huts.
I don't think I am, man. Look where I'm living.
You're building huts in the forest, so yeah.
I think it's done, dog. Been there.
Or maybe you're so genius.
Yeah, I one time ate a whole ounce of mushrooms by accident.
Oh, how you do that?
It was concentrate, and I didn't know.
That's dangerous.
It was. I never want to do that again. But it was I tell you what, I was laughing for about 24 hours once I got my ego back. Once it came back, I was like, woo boy, hot dog. That was something else.
Wow, that sounds like it would hurt your abs.
It was violently kaleidoscopic. Is the only way I could describe
Exhausting.
it. It was exhausting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like rolling around.
How many hours were you in that state?
12 hours of that.
Oof.
And then when I finally got back to like at least, oh, I'm Damon
Yeah.
in a body.
Yeah.
Then I had another 12 hours. But that was like relieving. Shit was still like...
An
But it
ounce
was
of
like-
mushrooms. How many grams are in an ounce?
28, I think.
28. So yeah.
It was a concentrate.
Yeah.
It was a concentrate, and I thought it was like a single serving
Whoa. Where were you?
in the city.
Oh no.
Someone took me out. Once they found out what happened, they were like, "Oh, we got to get this guy out of here, stat."
Yeah.
Like, shit's about to get crazy.
Yeah.
And it was
Were you loud or
no
wet or you just rolled around?
very introspective.
Peed yourself?
I don't think so.
Yeah.
Maybe I did. I don't know.
Yeah.
I wouldn't.
I would hope so.
Man, I was, dude, I was, it was crazy because like the flip books of reality, I saw it where it was like, oh, okay, the way I'm observing the world is a filter.
Mm.
It's a reality tunnel that's created out of all my experiences. Right?
Right. You observe mine as a surfboard that you ride in order to be in this wave of the physical reality.
Yeah.
But the
and
one riding
you're
the
used to
surfboard
it.
is...
You're used to it. It's like this is my reality tunnel. This is my ego tunnel. And the way I observe the world and experience it and interact with it is based on all of my previous experiences. And then as the input comes into my nervous system, it is filtered through those, synapses or whatever the physical quality is. But for that time, there were it was like the same world, but the layer just kept getting peeled back into these other versions of the same reality, but completely different.
It's great you can still breathe.
Well, when it was all over, I was like, oh my gosh, dude. It changed my life forever.
Was it like an enlightenment you feel?
Absolutely. I haven't really been depressed,
Yeah.
I used to
age
get
was that?
depressed. 30, 29, something like that.
Would you say these psychedelic journeys or initiations have affected your art and the way you express yourself?
How could it not?
Right.
Everything affects all things.
What would you say your art is about? Is there like a subject matter, or is it just capturing a vibe? Like
When
it's
I
not
was-
subjective. Like it's abstract to some degree.
When I was younger, all my art was characters.
Mm-hmm.
I did all characters. And they were all self-portraits. I mean, that's obvious to me now.
Mhm.
They were all self-portraits. And so I viewed the world all through the lens of myself. Like because when you're in your 20s, you're trying to figure yourself out and you're drawing yourself in all these different sort of things. And as I got older, I got more interested in the world outside of myself. How, it started to grow. And so then these characters started to break apart into like, I started to deconstruct the figures. If you look at my old artwork, you can see it. The characters are breaking apart and they're falling in these pieces, and then suddenly the pieces become the landscape. This was all, I didn't do it intentionally. It was just, that's how it worked out. And then it just grew and grew and grew. And it's so funny because I'm coming back and I started doing characters again.
Mm-hmm.
And now that I'm like, almost 50, I'm back to where I'm all, back to the inner again, because you can learn, you know.
I love
So-
characters, obviously. That's what
Yeah,
I do.
characters are great.
Yeah.
It's like
To invent all these beings that didn't exist till you.
yeah, you
made
made
them
it
obviously
exactly. I love
visible.
it. I love it. The only reason I just was following. I can't even take credit for any of this stuff. It's like you're just sort of following the path, and you're listening to the internal and how the experience has happened, and you just keep iterating on yourself, iterating on what you do, and it just, I mean, you know what it's like. You're an artist. You just keep iterating, and it's fun. That's the game,
Right.
you know.
What about mediums? You play with different mediums. What's your vibe these days? You told me you were
Music.
doing. Well, let's,
like making music.
let's get into music, but like you're doing more drawings now.
Oh
Than
yeah, I
paintings,
draw.
Right?
I've always been more of a drawer.
Okay.
I've always been more of a drawer. I prefer to draw, like 100%. You know.
Really? Why?
Yeah. It's more direct. It's fast.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's like.
But it's less valued. Say, somebody would pay more money for a painting than for a drawing.
I guess. I mean, I have collectors that would kill to buy this.
But that's a whole sketchbook of drawings.
I know, but you know, it's the same as doing a painting, but I will never part with it. And they're like, "Oh, let me give you, you know, whatever."
You
for
like
that."
cut and fold it. Like, who made that sketchbook to start with?
I
Because that's
did.
a very okay. You make a weird sketchbook and then you draw so that different pages
Yep.
meet different
Yep.
drawings,
Yep.
and this is like a stream of consciousness.
Yep.
Do
And
you
I'm
know-
letting the there's a bit of the chaos universe happening in there, right? Because you make these, you put this together, and then there's something to start from.
It's beautiful.
It's fun. I'll get you some. I got a bunch in the storage unit over there.
Nice.
I sell them on my website.
Oh, cool.
Handmade
Cool.
sketchwork. I do about 100 to 150 a year, and I
Okay.
can only do maybe like 10.
Okay. And you got most of your art stored in somewhere because here on your land it'd be too much at risk.
Yeah, I mean, temperature control, the environment, all that kind of stuff.
What's the temperature difficulties here? Humidity? No. Too
No,
dry?
not so much the humidity, but the heat. Because it goes from like 100 degrees during the day to 50 degrees at night. So that's a 50-degree swing.
And that can crunch up a canvas?
Nah, it's not great.
Uh-huh.
It's not. You don't want that. I mean, if you're trying to make something last, I don't even know how long. You know, it's like. I mean, that's for the benefit of people down the road, which I don't think about too much. But we have a lot of fires here, and so like all my best artwork, which is not even mine. It's artwork that I traded with my friends.
Yeah.
That shit ain't here.
Yeah.
I have that in a storage space in Sacramento.
Do you miss it?
Yeah. Yeah, I liked having it all around me in a big house,
Uh-huh.
but I don't have that anymore. So
Whose art do you own that you're still
Mars, Oliver, Nomi, my friends.
You're further.
I even got some, crazy stuff like Von Baudet and, pretty crazy shit that just irreplaceable. It's like,
Do you think you will display that art again, or because you can't do it on this current version of your home living, but you're trying out this off-grid situation to be more sustainable, take care of yourself?
yeah.
How long do you think you will do this expression? It's almost like this way of living is your latest installation piece done through life.
Man, I don't know how long I can do it, bro.
Yeah. Why?
If I'm being honest,
Yeah.
it's getting a little easier, but I think I'm gonna need a little more creature comforts. Showering outside in the dead of winter is brutal. Like everybody's like, cold plunge. Try taking a shower when it's 30 degrees outside. It's crazy to do that.
That sounds torturous.
Yeah.
Do you avoid showers then?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Absolutely.
Does
I'll
it
go to
aff-
the gallery.
Does it affect your personal relationships?
No. I'll go to the gallery and like,
Yeah.
that's another thing about the clubhouse.
Mm.
Like, even when the power went out for everybody here,
Mhm.
I remember I went in there to shower and there was like 10 people waiting because they all lost power.
Mm.
And I was like, oh, I'm doing this all the time.
Mhm.
They're like just there.
But you could
Figure
build
it
up
out.
your home situation where you have a heated
Yes.
indoor shower. You could have eventually well insulated,
Yeah,
climate
that's the
control
plan.
studio. Like you don't have to give up on this project just because it's not there yet.
It's true. And it's probably going to be easier to do that than, I mean, it's about resources, like getting the resources, and that means working more. And if you work more, that means you have to take away from this. It's all, you're shifting your energy towards different situations, and we'll get there.
Yeah, you'll have some luck and find some.
I think so.
lose
Things are
someone.
already picking up.
Yeah.
There was a bit of a lull, and
Well, everybody's going through economical struggles.
For
these days.
sure,
The
for
fact that
sure.
you own land and that you've
It's
been your
huge.
own home
Yeah.
and that you still can live as an artist.
Not complaining. Yeah.
It's a huge gift, and you're doing it at your own choosing.
Yeah.
Nobody like forced you to live this way. You're like,
No,
I
it's
want to
true.
do this.
No.
Why would you do this?
That's what on my hardest days I say, I'm living the dream.
So-
I'm fucking, this is what I asked for.
Do you have people that perhaps challenge you or say like, you're crazy? Why would you do off-grid living?
Not too much. They know that I'm crazy already.
Uh-huh.
My good friends, they already know that I'm.
But they love you for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would think. Otherwise, why would they still call me? And my good friends, they contact me every day, and I'm like, wow, this person's still, as crazy as I am.
Well, you're very much yourself.
Yeah.
And authenticity is hard to come by sometimes.
I think so.
And uniqueness.
Yeah.
Everybody's just so boring.
Yeah.
Well, not everybody's so boring, but
A lot of people are boring, and I definitely think I can be a difficult personality for some people. But my friends that are really close to me, the challenging, the way that I'm challenging to them must be good.
Mhm.
Otherwise, why would they?
You're
They would have gave up a long time ago.
you're stretching them a little bit.
Yeah.
You
No,
know?
I'm always poking holes in everything. I
Mhm.
love to do that. I
You're-
love to deconstruct things. I love to poke holes in things. I love to challenge everything.
And because of that, you're an important ingredient in the Furtherrr Collective.
I guess so. Yeah. I must be, right?
It
Otherwise
wouldn't
I
be the same without you.
I don't think so. I don't think it with any of us. I get scared actually all the time because it's like, we're getting older, and I'm like, oh my God, if one of us, heaven forbid, because it's going to happen, and then the person is not around anymore, and then you're like, oh,
You're talking about death?
no. I don't want to say it because I don't want to jinx anything, man. But you know what I'm saying? It's like,
Uh-huh.
I couldn't imagine the Furtherrr Collective without
One of them.
one of us.
So it's kind of like the Beastie Boys.
Exactly.
One goes, there's no
No, we're
more
done.
Beastie Boys.
We're
Yeah.
done.
It's
We're
not
done.
like Sublime or
Yeah,
Bill Silverback
we're not trying to
bring it Rome
bring in.
to.
I'd love to bring in. I'd love to
One.
actually bring in other. I like collaborating with other people too.
Uh-huh.
So it's not like oh, I will never
Yeah.
But it's like a band where it's like
Right.
you got to have every member.
Right.
And we actually do collaborations where it's not all five of us, where we
Mhm.
collaborate differently.
Two people.
2 or
You and
3.
Naomi.
Yeah, exactly. Me and Nomi, or
Mhm.
me and Mario, or me and Oliver, or whatever.
Mhm.
I mean, that's all fun, but it's like when it's all five of us just hanging out, doing the thing, it's just the magic is so intense.
Is it okay? So you got 5 master painters all going on one canvas. Each one of you are huge personalities. I imagine your ego is big enough. Not I'm calling any of you egocentric, but there goes the GoPro. What time are we on right now?
At 1:45.
Okay, cool. We're good.
I'm just gonna check the GoPro.
Does it ever happen that There's a clash of personalities in that collaboration?
100%.
Yeah?
It's happened.
Okay.
One time me and Nomi almost fought.
Yeah? Like fist fight?
Yeah.
Who would win?
Probably Nomi. Nomi's fucking strong, dude.
I've never met him.
Really?
Well, I've seen him paint, but I've never talked to him.
You've met him? You never talked to him?
I can't remember I have.
That's crazy.
Maybe I've said hi
That's
to him, but
crazy.
yeah.
No, he's strong.
Yeah.
He's a strong boy.
Yeah? He does push-ups and stuff.
Yeah, he does push-ups and shit.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, I don't do that.
I gotta do more push-ups.
I know,
myself.
right?
I know. Like
Pull-ups and all that shit.
Yeah, it's something to get these man boobs in control.
I mean, I'm okay. I got it, but it's like, dude, this guy, he's like, for 51 years old, it's like, holy smokes, bro.
Uh-huh.
He's got like the body of a 23-year-old, you know?
Damn.
Yeah, he's solid.
Where does he live? Does he live around here?
He was living here. He's a bit of a nomad, you know?
Uh-huh.
But he just moved up to Oregon.
Okay.
I think he'll be back.
Okay, nice.
We'll see.
But, so I guess sometimes there's just
You know,
clashes.
you look, if you're painting at a festival for 5 or 6 days, you start not getting as much sleep and the different weird things happen and whatever. And
you're
you have a little,
half-cut.
you just, everything, you know, you have little moments or whatever. But honestly, for the most part, we're really chill about stuff. We kind of, you know, we can rib. Everything's fair game. So, like, if there's things that we don't like on the painting, it's okay to say that. It's sort of like fuck with people and make jokes and sort of like
it never hurts your feelings if somebody doesn't like the part that you made?
I mean, only in the most superficial way.
You gotta be open.
Yeah. How could you make that work? Five big ego people painting on the same thing. You have to let go of that.
Yeah.
Like, some of yourself has to be like, okay. Plus, you're painting with people. Every person you're painting with, you respect so much that if they're critiquing, like, hey, you know, actually it's not really working. I'm gonna pay attention to that.
Yeah, you wanna
Yeah,
because
thank you.
These guys are good.
Yeah, thank you for being honest about it. What could I do? What could I do to fix that? And you know, and then you go, and that's how you get better. You know.
Is there any competitiveness between you?
100%.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Is that something that feels good or bad or challenging or?
I love competitiveness.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Why?
It's the other half of human nature. You have the cooperation part, and you have the competitiveness. That's nature. Nature is a balance of competitive and cooperation. Without those two, you can have a homeostasis, but a homeostasis actually will create disease because nothing is being challenged.
Do you think it's the nature of humanity to always be competitive? Do you think even once we realize we're all one soul that are supposed to stop dividing and become one united humanity, that there'll still be a little bit of competition?
Well, first of all, I don't think that will ever happen.
Okay.
I think it's a nice idea.
Okay. You don't think that utopia and
No, I'm not a
unity will happen?
I'm not a utopianist.
Okay.
No.
How come?
Because that is not the nature of the universe. The nature of the universe is everybody likes to think that it's balance. It is not balance. It's imbalance. And in fact, I'll take an example, a magnet, right? A magnet is a North Pole and a South Pole, right? With two toroidal fields. And you would imagine that those two toroidal fields would be perfectly in balance, right? They're not. One of them is 1 over the power of phi. It's an egg shape. There has to be an imbalance. You cannot, nothing can move and shift and change without imbalance. Movement of energy from one thing to another thing is the imbalance of the thing. There always has to be some imbalance. Otherwise, you have nothing. There's nothing.
Do you think So you don't believe there's like some planet out there in the vast
No.
universe where creatures just kind of like are
No,
chilling?
but what would that be? Then evolution. There's no evolution. There's
But
no.
what if they're already kind of like in
So
a
what
comfortable
happens
state
if-
of evolution?
Okay, so what happens if you do that, but then the star that you live around changes? That's an imbalance. You now you have to rebalance the change of the thing around you. The whole universe is in a constant state of motion. If everything was just homeostatic,
Peace and harmony is impossible.
not only is it impossible, it's undesirable.
Really?
Yes,
But I want to be at peace and harmony.
but you can be inside. You personally,
Uh-huh.
the world you create can be that. The idea that so there's two kinds of people in the world, right? There are people who want the world to be utopian. We would call them idealists.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the most famous are Rousseau, the French guy. He wrote The Social Contract. And after him, Hegel, the German, with Hegelianism. And then, you know, the young Hegelians like Marx and Engels, and so on and so forth. These are idealists, right? They imagine the world as a perfect thing where everybody is happy, right? My problem with that is one person's utopia is another person's hell.
Mm-hmm.
How do you create a utopia if everybody has a different idea of what utopia is? It's subjective.
True. There's people who
It's
hang
totally
Some
subjective.
people hang themselves on hooks.
Right.
But perhaps...
And they think that's wonderful and fun.
Right.
Yeah, I don't want to do that.
No.
What if someone said the new utopian world is everyone hangs themselves on hooks?
Well, that's the thing. It's not about like everybody does the same thing and then that will make everybody happy. Perhaps we can all just be happy doing whatever the fuck we want to do as long as it doesn't hurt other people.
Well, that would be, so there's a different ideological framework for that.
Okay.
And that's called liberalism.
You know your philosophy so
I do.
well.
I've read all of it.
Damn.
I've read all of it. Hegel, Rousseau, Marcuse, Derrida. I'm a junkie on it. I think it's fascinating.
Uh-huh.
So, because it matters, because we actually live in a philosophical world.
Right. It's all we're here to do is to figure out what the video game is
Yeah.
like.
So like if you watch a movie or a television show or listen to music, right? Even if the people who created those things don't know, they are regurgitating a philosophical worldview that was created by somebody else, right? When you're born, there's very little hardware of human faces, right? Everything else is programmed, right? So everything you know and understand comes from somewhere else, and it's built up over time, over people who thought a lot about these things. And we can learn about those things because they wrote books about it. And we live in a world created by other people. And it's our job as artists, philosophers, musicians, creatives, to take their ideas and turn them into something new and, right?
Coconut water?
Sure. So, we're living in a world right now that's very Hegelian. Like we're getting taken over by Hegelianism, and we don't even realize that it's happening.
What is Hegelianism?
It's a form of Hermeticism where you take the opposites and you recombine them in order to cancel them out. And so it's all about taking contradictions and eliminating them because you want to return everything to one.
That's what's happening right now?
That's what woke is. It's a weird version of Hegelianism.
Well, woke is something that some people are trying to pass on to the rest, but I wouldn't say it's the main norm of society.
It's not, but isn't it interesting that all institutions have adopted these ideas? Mm-hmm. Every learning institution, every government, every military organization, every corporation, every world government institute, they've all adopted this ideological framework, right?
Okay, the system.
And it goes from Rousseau to Hegel to Marcuse and Derrida, all the way up to the very first person in Harvard who, coined the CRT term, and you've got Kimberly Crenshaw with her unpacking the invisible knapsack, and she called it intersectionalism. And I've read all this stuff. It's very interesting. A lot of good points. I'm very sympathetic to a lot of the ideas. However, I am not a utopianist. I do not believe that we can create heaven on earth. Not going to happen. And the only way they've done this many times, right? They did it in the Soviet Union. They did it in Korea. They did it in China. This is all people trying to create heaven on earth. We're going to make heaven on earth, people. All we have to do is get everybody to believe what we believe.
Well,
if you don't believe it, get up against the wall.
but that's not what I'm talking about.
Oh, what are you talking about?
I'm not saying like everybody believe what woke culture believes and then we'll all be happy. I believe whatever the fuck you want to believe.
I know, but they
Live
believe
your life as you will, and then we can all
okay,
just
so
be
that's
happy.
liberalism. Okay,
Sure.
right? That's John Locke. Okay, liberalism is different. Liberalism is pursuit of personal happiness.
You do you.
You do
me.
you, I do me.
I'm into that.
Yeah, me too. I'm a liberal.
Yeah.
If I had to choose a philosophical framework, I'm going to go liberalism because it's
libertarian.
I'm a libertarian.
Okay,
but
that's
I'm a libertarian.
Terms are so confusing because in Canada, liberal is the.
I know. Yeah, same with other countries. We in the United States we misuse liberal. Liberals are now Marxists and conservatives are now neoliberal. It's so nobody actually, unless you study philosophy, how would you know any of this shit?
It's flipped all over the place.
because
it's become confusing, and people are just holding on to their side of the
that's right.
equation to be like, well, I've always been left.
It's brand loyalty, right? It's brand loyalty. It's like you went to Taco Bell in 1980, and the tacos were really good. And now for some reason you think in 2023 the tacos are the same as in 1980. That brand is completely different. They've changed the ingredients. They've changed everything about it. I don't care. I'm not a political. I don't give a fuck about any of these politicians. They're all corrupt. If I could say what I really wanted to say, I'm not going to say it. But they're all disgusting to me. I'm pretty sure. I'm almost 100%. They're all compromised.
Children are involved.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All of them, the whole freaking lot of them, they're all compromised.
Yeah.
So, they're all throwing words and things around. I'm talking about ideas. So, in the liberal idea, it's freedom of speech. Number one, the freedom to think and say, even if it makes you so mad and angry and upset and you disagree and you hate everything. I don't care. I have a right to say and think what I want.
Right.
But the universe made it that way. And so if you try to change that, you are going against natural law, the natural order of the world, right? That's my personal opinion. And so I see the world moving towards this more totalitarian, authoritarian, where we all have to agree on things that I'm not going to say what they are, but they are things where 10 years ago, if you said,
just say it. Like, I don't think YouTube will bring down the video if you're.
No, they will, actually. So I'm not going to say it, but I can't say scientific facts or like just obvious things because that is somehow offensive to a group of people who it's so bizarre to me. It's wild, and I'm an artist, so I'm an individualist. I think we should be able to say and think what we want. You know,
You don't have to agree with it.
you don't have to agree with it. You can hate me, you can think whatever, or you can say, oh, okay, well, we disagree on that thing, and that's fine.
Yeah, and still all blessings to you.
Yeah, totally, absolutely. It's like there are a lot of people that say so many stupid things that they're repeating from the TV, and I don't hate them for it. Okay, I feel sorry for them actually. I go, oof, wow, you're that fucking
You bought
spun
it.
out.
You bought the
Yeah,
corporate
you're in the
propaganda.
you're
and
in-
too bad. And like, not a judgment. It's just like, oh, damn, I'm sorry that you're in that position. But like,
well, they've
send you
had-
more blessings, send you more love.
Exactly, more love, and we need to. Yeah, that's what, I'm not interested in the divisiveness. I want to bring people together.
Right.
And so, but they've had over 100 years now to perfect dividing people. That's what they've done, right? The guy that invented public relations, you know who that is?
No.
Edward Bernays. He was the nephew of Sigmund Freud.
Okay.
He had Sigmund Freud's shit published in the United States, and he invented public relations. He opened the first PR firm on Madison Avenue 100 years ago. And, you know, they invented consumer culture. They invented divisive politics. They promoted identity politics, identity Marxism from the deconstructionists and the postmodernists. Just all this stuff is so insane. Watching it happen in real time is crazy. And the only solace I get from all of this is it's going to fail miserably. And
do you think it's well-intentioned at all? To that identity politics that's like, oh, let's honor these people who suffered before, so let's give them extra love.
What group of people hasn't suffered on the planet? Why are we making distinctions between people based on such arbitrary characteristics as melatonin in the skin, gender, sexuality? These are arbitrary characteristics, right? I have a nose that slightly turns up. Is that a characteristic?
Well,
my
true.
height,
True, it should be meaningless.
They're arbitrary.
I agree with you with it 100%, but in this crazy world, some people got treated worse because of the tone of their skin,
absolutely,
or their sexual preference.
Is that happening now?
I think so, but I don't see it. But then again, I'm a white dude, and perhaps I'm from a position that I don't catch
even
it.
Saying that buys into the whole framework of it. I absolutely will not buy into that. I won't do it. I grew up in New Orleans, okay? Where I grew up, it was 60% black. Okay, so I was the minority in my neighborhood. In fact, by a far amount. I grew up next to the St. Thomas housing projects. I was like the only white kid in my neighborhood, okay? I didn't even know what race was until somebody called me a name, and I had to go home and ask my mom, what the fuck is that about, right? So everybody's experience is unique. I'm not buying this idea. Look, are some people mistreated because of a way they look or act or any of the... Absolutely. Try to walk around with Down syndrome. I bet you get all kinds of terrible, you know, but if I meet someone with Down syndrome, I'm obviously not going to, they're a human being and who deserves love and respect. I think most people get that, right?
Yeah.
Imagine walking into a grocery store and yelling the N-word. How do you think people would respond?
They're pissed off.
Yeah, they're not going to like that, right?
No.
Yeah, so clearly we don't live in a society that accepts that behavior.
Right.
Right? So why are we being told that that's what we live in?
Well,
they're trying to create division.
That's what I was talking to Paulina earlier, actually. I did a Sunday video this morning about, like, I came to America and everybody says America sucks and that it's full of racists, but I don't see any. I've never seen it. And Paulina's like, yeah, that's true, but maybe it's because you're a white dude. You don't get attacked yourself, so perhaps you are in that position.
I've been attacked for my race. 100%. I'm not going to hold it against everybody why would I do that? Everybody's an individual who's responsible for their own actions. I'm a liberal. I'm an individualist. I don't believe in social justice. I believe in individual justice. this is identity Marxism. This is Marx's conflict theory superimposed onto American problems that we've experienced over time. We can stop this right now. All we have to do is just stop.
Fuck this shit.
Yeah, I'm not gonna engage in this nonsense.
Fuck this shit. Both racism.
I hate racism.
Of course, racism is whack, and
it's
fuck
dumb.
that shit.
Yeah.
But also fuck like now you guys suck because you guys that were the bad people.
But the woke stuff is neo-racism. You have the racism and you have neo-racism. I can prove it. I have the book upstairs, the Critical Race Theory. It's all the most important papers. Critical race theory, and the second critical race theory paper ever written by what's his name, Brown. I can't remember his name off the top of my head, but his whole thesis of this paper is that segregation was actually better.
That's critical race theory.
Yeah, that's wild. Is that not wild? Okay. Absolutely insane. It's like, no.
Is that what they're trying to teach kids in school?
Well, what they are is they're postmodern Marxists, okay, who are using race, gender, and sexuality as a wedge to create a voting block. Does that make sense? Right.
Sure.
So the idea is, this all goes back to Herbert Marcuse.
Because it's classic. Okay, if you believe in identical politics, you're on the left. If you are down with this, BLM, you're on the left. And it's just pulling in all these people who want to be good intentioned.
They want to be good.
You know, it's like, oh, it sounds fair to
and they've never actually read any of the stuff, which is wild. Some of this stuff is absolutely wild because it actually promotes biological determinism, which is racism. Biological determinism is it's saying, oh, if the color of your skin determines how you behave. That is actual racism. That is what what they teach in college now. It's the total inverse. It's not liberal, right? So in America they go, oh, I hear conservatives go, these fucking liberals are crazy. Those people are not liberal. They hate liberalism because liberalism is individualism. They don't like they like collectivism. They want to collectivize people who feel marginalized as a democratic voting bloc so that they can push in their forced collectivist ideas. It's so insidious. And it goes all the way back to, Hegel, because Hegel believed that the ultimate form of human consciousness is the state, which is insane.
But it's backfiring, right?
I think so. I would hope so. And that's why I'm so vocal about it, because I don't like it. I'm not into it. I'm an artist. I'm an individualist. Let me be me.
To each their own.
Exactly. If you're not hurting me,
you're not hating on any eye.
Yeah.
I don't hate any eye.
No, I don't hate any. I don't even hate the people who are pushing this stuff because they know not what they do.
But they certainly hate the other side.
Absolutely.
It's like like for example, I'm in Florida and sometimes somebody will send me a video of like, you Florida fucking assholes are doing this and that and blocking. It's like,
well, you have to.
That's the same energy that you're angry about is the energy you're throwing at the other side.
Well, that's the whole point of the thing, because what they really want is revolution through division. And what's so fascinating is Herbert Marcuse. I disagree with almost everything he says, except for one thing. He wrote in his paper, One Dimensional Man, that be careful because the elites will co-opt progressive politics to further their agenda. So what you're seeing is when corporations, the military industrial complex, the global elites, when you see them adopt progressive politics, LGBTQIA+, blah, 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 what they're doing is they're adopting the politics of the day so that they can seize more control and more power. And that's what's so crazy is like, when I watch people who think they're so progressive, and you're like, yeah, but you agree with every single thing that Anheuser-Busch, Disney, Netflix, fucking the military, Lockheed Martin.
Yeah, let's go and like
Oh,
support
it's so
wars.
progressive. How many LGBTQ bombs are you making?
Yeah.
I mean, it's like, it's so obvious.
It's pro-war.
It's pro-war. Yeah, they're pro-Ukraine war.
Yeah.
That's how insane these people are. They've completely lost the plot, and we've got to bring them back in, but we got to do it gently.
With love and compassion.
Love and compassion, and you can't hate people because
or be like, you're an idiot for not knowing the truth.
I never do that. I never do that because I understand the amount of time and effort and work I've put into understanding the number of words I've had to read. I cannot expect people to do this. They don't have the time. They have to pay bills. They have to do these things. I've sacrificed creature comforts so that I can learn what is happening in the world and figure out a way to approach people in the most friendly. And I've got many tricks because there's so many contradictions in these ideologies that all you have to do is just chip away gently, because we all believe the same thing, right? We all believe that all people are a blessing, and so that's how you have to do it.
We also got good intentions.
I do.
But we just see
absolutely.
through the lies of the controllers that manipulate our compassion and good heart. Like, it's like, poor Ukraine, look how much they're suffering.
I know.
Okay, now give me all your taxes
Yeah,
so we
yeah,
can
give
like
me all
give
the money,
like
get-
weapons for people to kill each other.
Yeah, a
It's
bunch
like,
of weapons to kill
whoa.
people. It's crazy. Fucking crazy.
And same with COVID. It's like, oh, please do, buy this shit. Or
You gotta respect the fucking scam, right? It's fucking... You tricked a bunch of people who think that they are the loving compassion. You tricked them into believing that buying a bunch of weapons and blowing people up is the fucking... Oh, gives me chills.
Right, and
Thinking about how gnarly
and
it is.
same with the the injection. It's like, if you don't do this, you're a bad person. You gotta do this thing that could potentially hurt your kids. Like,
Dude.
oh my god, because this is
Are you
what
kidding?
good people do.
Both my mom and my dad are fucking fucked now.
Yeah, after they
Yes,
got it.
Yes.
Oh no, what happened?
My stepdad got a aneurysm in his brain right after the booster, and he's been in the hospital almost for a year now. It's gonna get him.
Damn.
And my mom is now experiencing some. She didn't even want to talk to me because I begged her not to do it, and I know that it must be. She said about a lot of bad things to me about how I'm not a good person and I should do this thing, and I was like, Mom, please just wait. Give it a year.
Yeah,
2
just
years.
give
I was like, you don't go anywhere anyways. What the fuck are you doing?
Just a couple years. Let's just
let's see what
observe.
happens.
We're trusting
Yeah.
the agglomeration of
Yeah,
corporations.
Pfizer, the company that paid out the largest settlement in history for fucking people up with bad.
Like, that's who you're trusting, and all this, like, after years of
So
seeing how the
crazy.
governments, media, and corporations
Yeah.
get together, and all of a sudden it's like, oh no, we gotta trust them. If you don't do it, you're a bad person. It's like, no, I've just been seeing this bullshit going on for so long. I'm just gonna like step back, observe. I don't wish harm to anyone. I'm not selfish.
I don't, especially since 9/11. I was in my 20s. I watched it, the whole thing. The
Were
war.
you there?
I was in San Francisco. I went to New York right after. It was still smoking. But I was always, I got a lot of interesting books with a lot of interesting theories on things. And
that whole situation's got
it's so obvious. So
holes.
obvious. So fucking obvious.
There's a lot of holes in that story.
So many holes. But so having lived that whole life, when this thing popped up, my spidey senses were going off the chart. And I was like,
right?
I was like, nah, I'm good. I'm good. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I begged all my friends and family, every single one of them, I called them individually and said, please don't do that thing that they want you to, that they are. I was like, do you believe the media? You believe the government? You believe
Especially
it?
when they go
and they're
so
like,
hard.
No, but this. And I was like, God, that is so crazy.
Especially they went so ham.
They
on
went
people.
so hard, ham-fisted.
Yeah, it's like, and it's just like
They're like, you're the worst person in the
you're
world.
racist, misogynistic.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
when they start calling you those names, that's when you know you're right over target. You're
like-
right over the target.
Yeah.
No, clearly there's another agenda happening. I don't know what it is, man. Are they trying to terraform the earth for the lizard people? Are they fucking, you know what? I don't know. But what I do know is, right before all this stuff, you know, there was some strife and there was some things, but it, like, I had my own personal, my experience of the world was it was getting more tight. It was getting more loving, and
there was a chance for us to step into the new era. Perhaps not utopia. Perhaps utopia's
it doesn't have to be utopia.
It doesn't have to be utopian, but at least like the next level of like humanity understanding each
Closer.
other and not fighting itself.
And we still have a good chance at that. And I think
It's gonna
actually,
happen.
I think these people are running, they're terrified at this point because they're trying so hard and no one is listening to them. If you go and look at Fox News or CNN or MSNBC, nobody's watching that shit. Bro, more people are watching Chris Dyer than MSNBC.
I don't know
And
about
they
that.
should be. They should be. 100%. Because it's crazy. They're desperate. They are absolutely desperate. Everybody knows it. The word is getting out. This shit is over. We're done with the crazy shit. Right? We're gonna get together.
I think people are waking up. I think it's getting so obvious that even the people who really were like betting on our side, they're just like,
They're like,
at one
oh.
point I gotta just kind of like be like, okay, this was bullshit. It's all good because I don't want to judge somebody who was quote unquote
100%.
wrong. Like I just want to be left alone and not judged or treated like a That was actually the first time I ever felt like a minority.
Yeah, isn't that wild?
When I was
Me
in Canada,
too.
I was in
like,
Canada.
holy
It was
shit.
10% of us left, and all of a sudden we were the scum of the earth. It was like,
Yeah, you're the
whoa.
reason everyone's dying.
And
like,
then
what?
have friends to be like, you're white man. You cannot feel bad about yourself. It's like, sorry, I feel like how I feel, man. Like
It's it's so evil to judge people based on any
physical characteristic of anything.
characteristics that are out of your control.
Right.
Right? Like, how does that? Like, I never did that. I don't ever want to do that. Even if it happens to me, I don't care. I'm gonna stick with my philosophical framework, which is every human being is an individual. I can judge them individually, and even when I judge them in that one state, I understand it's only a slice of their existence, and that there is a time before that, and there will be a time after that, and so even that judgment is not whole.
Right. It's not really even like
they have growth.
Judgment maybe it's the wrong word. It's just like
I think judgment is okay. You can judge things. You can say I like this more than I like that. That's a
perhaps, but it's not like a judgment like you are this kind of vibes.
No. And name calling people all these bad names, it's not an argument.
Yeah.
Right? That's not like
it's a fallacy.
Yeah, it's a fallacy. It's a ad hominem. You can't, it says nothing. Like, engage me on my ideas. Don't engage me on my melanin content or my gender or my sexuality, because you're actually making a lot of assumptions. Right? You don't know what I stick my dick in. Like, right?
Yeah, totally. I do not know. I've not been there.
You weren't there.
So
You weren't there for every sexual encounter, so shut the fuck up.
So
I could be a minority.
So the world is kind of
It's crazy.
perhaps finding itself.
I think so.
There's a lot of confusion and division and weirdness, and we feel like perhaps it's chaotic. But I feel we're gonna figure it out enough to step into a new chapter of positivity. At least that's my personal belief. Do you believe that humanity in our lifetime could get into an era of a little bit more harmony, at least?
Yes, 2028.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
Okay. Tell
Easy.
me about
That's easy.
why did I age? Why that
I
year?
know, it's crazy.
Are you psychic?
Yes.
Okay,
No,
cool.
no, I'm not psychic.
Oh.
I just there's patterns. There's
Okay.
patterns.
Okay.
And so we're right now we're in the fourth turning,
Mhm.
and so that's what's happening. You can actually map this out. This is like a normal. This is a normal pattern, and things are actually even more accelerated. But I'm very optimistic, right? Because I think people are, despite all the propaganda and all the, the efforts of the oligarchy fucking elites, we are a lot smarter than that. We're more in tune, and actually I think a lot more people have done psychedelics than ever before, right? Since the early days.
But in the early days, there weren't that many people on Earth.
That's what I'm saying. But
Yeah.
now we're heading into a time where I don't want to sound. This is where it gets kind of off the rails, but the festival scene was. I remember talking to the CEO of Eventbrite. Right, that's a big company. They sell a lot of tickets.
Okay, what festivals do they do?
What's that?
Eventbrite. What do
Eventbrite. They do like festivals, fucking events, right?
Okay.
And we were having this conversation, and she was like, and we were having this whole conversation about material things versus experiential things. Mm-hmm. And she was really excited about the future because young people were so much more about, her business was growing because people were interested in experience rather than material. And we were just kind of talking about how awesome that was. Like,
when was that?
This was in 2017, 2016. Mm-hmm. And I think that might be part of what this whole shift, because the festival world culture and live music and live shows became such a huge part of what people were spending their money on, which is the antithesis of materialism.
Yeah.
Which is what all this sort of locked into, that's how they control us, through material possessions and, right?
Do you think perhaps some people want to go to that festival for some kind of superficial flex of like, oh, I've been to Electric Forest
Totally, but they're
10
not,
times, and
but
that
it
becomes a material thing too?
Is it material though?
It's
not
honor?
material. It's a badge of honor, but it's not like,
yeah, but
it's like, I went to a thing. Okay, yeah. Cool.
Well, it's a proof of experience.
A proof of experience, but there's no, it's not a car, it's not a house, it's not a fucking thing. It's an experience.
Right, that's true.
You're bragging about your experience. Okay, I'll take that over bragging about whatever.
Yeah, my rims.
Yeah. No, it's amazing because the growth, and this is what I was talking to her about, the growth of that company was exponential. And we were like, this is insane. Burning Man there is no way they could not keep up with the growth. Impossible. And so there were more and more festivals popping up because it was all about experience. Even if you just, for every young person, and suddenly, out of the blue, wouldn't you know it, everybody's got to be 6 feet apart, which is exactly the toroidal field, right? It's your toroidal field, my toroidal field. That's how we really communicate. And then suddenly it's like, oh, don't get within a loving field of that person, or otherwise you might get infected by the invisible thing, Mm-hmm. The insanity of the whole thing blew me away, because I was like, this is incredible that this movement that was happening worldwide was suddenly shut off for 2 years. So whatever love,
and ceremonies too.
ceremony, everything,
I was
everything that connects us was suddenly stopped. And at the same time, they made it political so that everybody divided into these two groups so that they could fight with each other about who is the good people and who's the bad people. Forgetting about who made the fucking thing, who paid for it.
And then it's giving you the guidelines of how
how you're going to behave.
It's so fucked up.
Yeah, it's, well, you know what it screams of? Desperation. Desperation. It's almost like they had an instrument that could measure the love. And they were like, oh my God, guys, the love is fucking off the charts. We gotta fucking put the kibosh on the love. Yeah. Release the thing.
Yeah, like
stop the love.
Austin Powers stuff.
Yeah, it's amazing. So I am optimistic because what I see is a bunch of people who are desperate to hang on to their power and it's going away. Yeah. It's you can't do this to people, human beings, to nature. Right. Impossible. Good luck. Yeah. You know.
And as you said, like we're at the dawn of a new psychedelic era.
Yep.
But once again, perhaps corporations and materialism will come and play a factor in that.
Oh, they will get their hands all in it. They will dip their dirty claws in there, their interdimensional lizard claws. Good luck. Good luck.
Because the medicine will awaken one way or another.
Yeah, yeah.
Even if they change the code or
doesn't matter.
Or charge or bring the wrong people to work along with it, or it's dangerous. Like
absolutely, you could bring things back with you. You can. There's a lot of things that can happen.
Right. There's puddling situations and
happened to me. It's happened to a lot of us. Yeah. It's I worry about it. Yep.
I think somebody in your gallery didn't come back, right?
Yes.
Yeah, and that's a sad situation. So certainly, medicines are something to.
You have to be respectful.
Super respectful.
Super respectful.
Yeah, you can't just be like psychedelics are cool now. Let's all just fucking go nuts.
You got to be respectful.
It's a sharp knife that could awaken you or could disconnect you from the physical reality.
I completely agree. I mean, however, our city streets are flooded with synthetic opiates. Could it get worse than this? Could it get worse?
But is it one against the other?
It's not one against the other. I'm just saying opiates are a natural thing that they turned into a disgusting,
Could they turn psychedelics into the
100%? For sure. We just have to, that's up to us.
We have to be conscious and wise.
We have to be the guardians to say, hey.
Yeah, not right now, not
well,
that
that's another
much.
interesting thing about the festival scene. It's a lot of people looking out for each other and creating the situations that make a good experience and teaching the generations how to responsibly experience these things together in a loving environment, right? That's the important part. It's like we can't rely on corporations and pharmaceutical companies and governments and other institutions to do that. They're not going to do that. They're only going to do the bad thing. That's because they're materialists. Right. We are not the materialists. We're the spiritualists. They're the materialists. We're the spiritualists. We have to. That's our job, right? So we have to stop them however much we can. It's
and you're not really that old yet, but you've been part of this culture and dealt with mysticism for some decades. Do you feel like you're to some degree in some kind of like more elder role that could step in and help guide the new generations that want to have the mystical experience? Like, how can you help in perhaps right now you're helping by communicating honestly and authentically your views.
That's the biggest part, right? And then second, if I'm around people who are behaving irresponsibly, I'm gonna use whatever perceived authority I have to gently coax people in a better direction, And I've been with people on their first journeys. I've facilitated a lot of that kind of thing where people are like, "Oh, I want to try this thing," and it's like, I'm here for you." You know, I trust myself more than many other people, right? Because I've had lots of interesting interesting pitfalls. So you know, why not be a person that's there? I think building environments for festivals is another way to do that, because you're creating a container that attracts the right people at the right time to create those synchronistic moments for that 17, 18, 19-year-old to take that first tab and have this moment, and you're there. You've created that container. You don't even have to be there personally. You just have to create the love that creates that. And you're doing it. You're doing the job. Same with you. You're doing that work. When you're painting those murals at those festivals. I see it. I see people. That's how I met you. I saw your mural and I was like, "Oh my God, this guy's amazing."
Symbiosis 2015.
Yep, 2015 Woodward. I was like walking by and I was like, "Oh my God, I fucking love that mural. It's so beautiful."
Oh, thank you.
And I was like, "I got to meet this guy." I didn't know who you were. I should have. Afterwards, I was like, "Oh my God, I can't believe I didn't know who this guy was." And you were such a sweetheart, and you were, you know.
I was looking up to you guys in your grand Coliseum that you had going with Furtherrr. Oh, there's a chicken.
He's coming.
Oh, yeah?
He's coming, yeah.
And I had my mural, and I'm just in the sun. I didn't have any spectators.
I know,
come
yeah,
and
no
sit.
shade even.
No shade. So what I did is I just pulled some pills of fucking hay and put them around me so people could actually sit and hang out a little bit. Because, I don't know, that whole festival hierarchy of... But then again, you had Brian to back you up. It's not like the festival is like, "Oh, fuck Chris Dyer and his fans."
No, not at all.
It's more like you got Brian that came like, "Let's build these guys a crazy
Well, we
Coliseum."
pre-sold the paintings so that we could purchase all that.
Wow.
The festival didn't pay for that. We paid for that.
Right.
We paid for that. We paid for all that shit.
How does that feel to like go in there with a pre-sold painting and...
You know, it's cool.
Tell me about your roosters.
He's a bad boy.
How many roosters do you got?
4.
Okay. Are they well behaved?
Except for this one. He's a bad boy.
Yeah. Why is he a bad boy?
He just is very angry.
Aw. What is disturbing him?
That's a great question. I've been trying to figure that out.
It's weird how they blink, huh? They blink.
He got two eyelids.
Huh.
We see all his comb is all bitten off.
From a dog?
From other roosters.
Oh.
He's gotten his ass handed to him a bunch of times.
In Peru, like for when I was a kid, you'd go to a kids party and they get the roosters to fight each other, and they put like big claw.
I know they put the spurs
on their legs so they would slice each other.
I know.
And I'm like 5 years old kind of styles.
I grew up in Louisiana. They do that still in Louisiana too. It's like one of the only states where it's still legal. I hate it. I hate it. These guys are so brutal to each other already. You don't need, like, look at these spurs. And these are dull. I file these off because he kicks me all the time.
Well, it seems like you're happy out here.
I love it.
Yeah. Even with its challenges, you've created a nice, self-sufficient environment.
I made this. I'm. If I wanted to do something different, I would.
Yeah.
But this is what I chose. So, I'm just happy you guys came out and visited. This is fun.
Yeah,
it was interesting.
Awesome.
Like,
thank you so much, man.
I was like really nervous about it. I was like, ugh, we look like a bunch of tweakers out here in the woods.
No, you're doing something really special. No, like few people got the balls to go out and do exactly what they want.
Yeah.
Even if it maybe doesn't look as glamorous as everybody else. Like, as we said before, like you could have this big house with all your painting collections and show off to your friends who come by and you're like, look what I've achieved with my art career,
Yeah.
and you've kind of been like, well, that ain't it.
Yeah.
For me, this is it. He's like, oh, that's awesome. Would you have some final words of wisdom to share with our people who watch this show?
I don't know if I can say it better than Rooster Boy.
He's
But
like, wake up.
love yourself and love everybody else as best you can. Live your dream. I mean, I don't know how else to say it.
You've had like 2 hours of saying awesome things, so thank you so much, Damon.
Yeah, thank you so much, man.
Brother.
Thank you so much, Chris.
And thank you guys for watching our episode of Chris Dyer's Creative Friends. Make sure to like, comment, share.
Subscribe.
Yeah, why not? Yeah, that's so awesome. Like, these conversations are precious, so make sure to pass it on to people who you think would enjoy it. And I'll see you next time. Blessings.
Yeah.
Next episode, Karma Glass.
Big topic, but God, the Most High, whatever created us, aliens, the universe, when it comes to whatever intelligence brought us to this dimension, I'm like a firm believer in that. I'm a firm believer in having a source. And people will be like, wow, this positive and all this source talk and all this, like, what are you gonna do when you die and it's an implacable wall of black? And I'm like, oh no, I half expect that. And they're like, wait, what? And I'm like, well, yeah, like, I'm not married to any of my ideas. I'm not firm in the fact that I know where we go when we die. And even when I've heard of reincarnation, like, it's a beautiful story. And it resonates with me so much because, yes, such could be the truth.
So please make sure to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Big thanks, and see you next episode. Peace.